Howdy, y'all. What is going on other than the... Oh my god, the dog. Lay down, boo. Lay down. Okay, hey, what's up, everybody? It is now slightly after 7 p.m., and no matter where you are in a video store, the online digital space to hang out and talk about movies for people who miss doing it in real life. I am your clerk for the evening, Adam Protextor, and as you may have noticed, yes, our dear Stephanie Thoreson is not with us currently. She might join the stream in a little bit. She's feeling very unexpectedly sick today. She was gonna rally and do the stream, and then while she was sitting here, she just had this like, nope, I need to go lay down moment. So we're letting her lay down, take at least the start of the stream off, maybe the whole stream. I'm not promising anything. Hopefully she'll be able to join us for Movie Club, because it was her first watch of our Movie Club pick this week, which was Hedwig and the Angry Inch. And comically, the second I started the stream and said, hey, what's up to y'all, I heard the dog jump off the bed from where the dog was cuddling with Stephanie to come in here. June, would you please lay down? Please lay down. If you're a longtime viewer of the show, you know that our animals love to wake up from their pleasant naps to say hello as soon as we start streaming. Looks like the dog's going back to snooze, which is great. Hey, I think we have a pretty fun show tonight, despite the fact that I'm just going to be holding it down. What is up to the chat? If you see me looking this direction, I'm reading the chat. What up, Munson J1? Good to have you. Pathos, always a pleasure. Glow Cat. Oh, hello, Glow Cat. Good to see you. I just saw you on Facebook like my status about this, and so I'm like, oh, nice. Point A to point B there. And DJ Stephanie Michelle in bed, but hanging in the chat. Stephanie, thank you for being here digitally. What up? It's awesome to have all y'all here. Look, this week, actually watched a great deal of stuff, a lot of really great stuff. Ended up accidentally doing like a mini film fest of queer horror that I ended up like loving. I shared a little bit of it on socials, but I ended up adding to it. Anyway, we'll get to it. If you're watching the show for the first time in a while, or for the first time ever, let me refresh on how it breaks down. We start the show by asking each other, what did you watch? What did you watch? Oh, yeah. Oh, that's good. Oh, I like that. Have you seen this? You'd probably like that, too. We do that. We go off on tangents. We talk about what we watched over the past week. We share recommendations, double feature ideas, etc. We take each other's recs. Just like that's the most pure video store part of the show, is let's hang out, pretend we're hanging out at the counter, trading movie ideas. Second part of the show is new arrivals. I have a very short new arrival stack this week. Balling on a budget now that I'm no longer in Austin. So the new arrivals section in the store, new arrivals portion of the show is probably going to get shorter. That being said, I'm saving up a little bit for the Criterion sale, and I'm sure we'll have some fun stuff in July as well. Not to sell it short, it's fun. There's some fun stuff. And then finally, we're going to do Movie Club, which this week was Hedwig and the Angry Inch. If you've been following this year, we explored Japanese cinema in April. We moved into Hong Kong in May. We got a little staggered off on Hong Kong watching, so I'm always down to return to that at some point, because I think we owe it more of a watch. But now we are in June, we are in Pride Month, and we're celebrating queer filmmakers, queer stories, and we started with Hedwig and the Angry Inch. So, what's up? That's the spiel. Also, you're watching UltraLoop. Have a lot of great stuff here every day of the week. Throw us a subscribe if you are so inclined. Let's get the show started. What did y'all watch? What did we watch this week? I have my phone out because I know there's going to be some stuff that I missed. Now, last week, I think the last thing Stephanie and I watched was the Star Wars prequel trilogy, and we had quite a talk about the prequel trilogy right here on the stream with y'all. I know that we all have opinions. That was last week. That was super fun. The first thing I watched this week was actually just piggybacking off of that, Spaceballs. This is what I watched right after watching the prequel trilogy. I had kind of started this. I think I showed this tape in the new arrivals section. I was really stoked that it said Spaceballs the video. I had to get it. watching it on tape in particular, like all that was missing was an actual Pizza Hut pizza and a 2-liter. It really did take me back to like sleepovers, running over to. Honestly, I don't know if Holden Wook's in the house tonight, but I distinctly have a memory when I was maybe 10 years old. I used to live across the street from Holden Wook. And I have a distinct memory of him calling my parents' house, asking for me and being like, Spaceballs is on TV, and me running across the street to catch Spaceballs with him. So it was awesome, and it was a really fun watch after Star Wars too. Anyway, we'll get back to what I watched in a second. Let's take a look here at the chat. I also might want to refill my coffee. I came in a little low today. Okay, Pathos, starting us off this week. Pathos watched 3 movies. Basketball, to which Munson J says, basketball, yeah, which I also co-sign. Basketball, hell yeah. Tin Cup, and the 2004 Thunderbirds movie. So I haven't seen Tin Cup or Thunderbirds. Tin Cup is a very Pathos pick, and what I mean by that is, like, I feel like Pathos, you're always reminding me of, like, the celebrated, but, like, the critically acclaimed, but kind of forgotten movies of their generations, and Tin Cup, I remember being kind of a big deal, and I haven't thought of it in forever, and you've piqued my curiosity. I love where your mind goes. I want to follow you. Like, I want you to program a film fest for me. Tin Cup. I have never seen Tin Cup. That's a golf movie, right? With Kevin Costner. Going back to sports, but it's a bit more of a relationship drama. Actually sounds like a relaxing, calming watch. Let's talk about basketball real quick, or I want to. I love basketball. I don't know why I paused there. Basketball's like one of those movies where you're hanging out with a friend and maybe you don't know them that well. Maybe it's one of the first hangs and you're at their place in high school or college, and they're like, do you want to throw on basketball? And you're like, yeah. And then you kind of effortlessly laugh for a while. At least I've had that exact experience. I don't know if that's universal. I really like it because not only is it Matt Stone and Trey Parker, like, being their goofy, not too self-serious, not Book of Mormon Tony Award-winning selves just yet. They're on the verge of becoming great artists, but they are still very much just smart, creative, young dudes with a silly sense of humor. And I think that pairs really well with David Zucker. If you don't know, Basketball is directed by David Zucker, who brought us who brought us Hot Shots, Airplane, Naked Gun. And so it is Scary Movie 3 and 4. So it's very much that style of comedy, and I feel like the old school slapstick of the Zucker brothers meeting the kind of like button pushing 90s alt comedy of Trey Parker and Matt Stone, who, let's face it, are a little more mean spirited than the Zuckers. I think just makes for this very stupid, very enjoyable watch. That is a product of its time. It's also smarter than the comedies of its time, but it's not. It's just as stupid as everything it's surrounded by, just as full of dumb dick jokes, but it's working on a more interesting level. I love this movie. That's what I'll say. Pathos, just to scroll ahead about Tin Cup. Oh, and I'm going to try and do the double feature for everything. Also, I'm going to try and remember that without Stephanie here, I need to take breaks, look at the chat, take a breath, not just talk to talk. Basketball, I enjoy basketball, I just turn my brain off for it. Glowcat, yes, 100%. It's just, I mean, I think that lately, I know Steph and I have been searching for comedies like this. I'm not sure basketball's quite her tin cup of tea, but maybe, possibly. I don't know. I'd be interested to see maybe if she comes on later, or you're in the chat, maybe, Stephanie, let us know. Because we've been looking for comedies at the end of the night that just help us shut off our brain. I feel like with some, personally, and for everybody as the world's opening back up, we've talked about this before, but there's a lot of change in the air. There's a lot of desire for creature comforts and familiar faces, and I think that is why, honestly, that's why Spaceballs and Star Wars have been such good friends for me this past week. Back to Tin Cup. It's a driving range golf pro and his caddy buddy getting their lives together between each other and other relationships, and Kevin Costner's character getting back on the PGA Tour. Drama, comedy, and a little romance. Great blend. sounds like a really relaxing Sunday dad movie that I would quite enjoy. I'm going to try and fit Tin Cup in. Let's end the Tin Cup erasure. And then the Thunderbirds movie, okay, so I am not of the right generation. Well, obviously we all like stuff from before our generation. I think I'm specifically not of the right generation to have the right amount of appreciation for things like Thunderbirds. And I'm forgetting what the other puppet-driven sci-fi show was from the Thunderbirds. The Space. It's got space in the title. I know that. And it's funny here because we're talking about Trey Parker and Matt Stone. Of course, Team America is deliberately spoofing that particular style of marionette puppetry. I'm wondering, Pathos, was that intentional, going from basketball to Thunderbirds? Was there a Trey Parker through line there? And then also let's talk about double features. Basketball. What's a good double feature for basketball? Sports comedy, silly sports comedy. I'm tempted to say Shaolin Soccer. I think Shaolin Soccer. Bring it back to Hong Kong. Basketball, Shaolin Soccer. That's my Major League. That's actually perfect, Locat. Yes. Yes. That is the other spoof sports comedy. I totally forgot about Major League. That's Charlie Sheen, right? I think that's also the Zuckers. Could be wrong. I need my keyboard a little bit closer. God, I remember that cover. Okay, David S. Ward. No, not the Zuckers. Okay, Charlie Sheen, though. Well, can't get them all right. Okay. And Stephanie popped in and said, I remember liking basketball, but haven't seen it in about a decade. It's fun. It's stupid, but it's fun. You got to be ready for those D jokes. 2004 Thunderbirds was live action, and it was trailed off. Had a few good moments, but overall it was kind of an irritating movie. I mean, that's an interesting choice. I can't really speak much to this because, again, I don't think I was the right generation to be a fan of the marionette sci-fi dramas that were popular. I think these were 60s shows. Again, I could be totally wrong. Someone correct me if I am. This is not my wheelhouse. But Thunderbirds, I think, was a 60s show. Who is the audience for a 2004 reboot? Is that just mining this IP? Is that just saying, what do we have here? And not only that, but what was the point of mining the IP just to translate it into a live action movie? Pathos, I'd be... Oh, nice. Good hometown movies are great. I love that. For me, it's also a baseball movie is my hometown movie. It is Field of Dreams, because they mentioned Iowa City in it, and that was a big deal. And the librarian at my junior high was an extra in it, which was also a big deal. So weird baseball hometown movies. I suppose that tracks. Oh, also the other Iowa City movie that it was a big deal that you could see downtown Iowa City in it was White Boys. Has anyone ever seen White Boys? It's a very silly hip-hop comedy about white rappers who go from Iowa into Chicago. I'm sure it's super racist. Like, looking back on it, I'm sure it is. But I remember there were shots of them downtown Iowa City, and that was cool back in the day. Ben Kingsley's in Thunderbirds. I vaguely remember that from the marketing campaign for that movie. Well, there's a lot to be said for a great performance in a bad movie. Okay, cool. Next up, speaking of problematic forays into the inner city, the hood, Leprechaun in the Hood, staring at that, the hip hop witch. Well, shit. So, Glowcat, you're like, let's go White Boys Leprechaun. Like, boom. That's like a little film festival right there. I've not seen Leprechaun in the Hood, aka Leprechaun 5. I have only seen, I think, the first two. Now, longtime viewers of the show will remember when I went to Austin for a trip recently that I went into a really cool video store in Taylor. I tried to buy Leprechaun 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. and he wanted to charge me $60 for each tape because it's an actual working video store. So he wasn't about to part for them for a reasonable price. I walked down the street to a thrift store and found Leprechaun 2 and Leprechaun 3 for, I think, $1 each the same day. And I'm really excited to watch through those. I love Warwick Davis. I love the first two. It's actually, I always try and pick a horror franchise every October that I'm less familiar with to watch my way through. It was going to be Leprechaun this year. So, Glowcat, I know you're a connoisseur of horror and trash cinema. How was Leprechaun in the Hood? And the Hip Hop Witch, I remember only being marginally aware of because it starred Eminem, and I was a big Eminem fan in high school, like most white rappers in the Midwest, who were in high school when 8 Mile came out. I know nothing about the Hip Hop Witch other than that it's a Blair Witch parody. Am I correct? Guest House, which is new to me, and binged all of Harley Quinn, the new animated show, right? I've heard really good things about that show, and I need to look it up real quick, because do we know, I'm asking Stephanie's if she's sitting next to me, if we know oh no, it's Kaylee Cacao, that's right. Well, we know someone who voices Harley Quinn in one iteration, but I forget where. Okay, so, before I scroll down, I'm going to try and come up with my own double features for these real quick, and then I want to see what Glowcat says. Leprechaun in the Hood. Oh, man. What do you double feature? I guess White Boys. You double feature it with White Boys. The Hip Hop Witch, I would say with Blair Witch. I think it's always fun to do an original and a parody. Guest House, I can't speak to. Harley Quinn, I will admit that I saw cartoon Harley Quinn butt in one of their early promos, and I was annoyed at myself that I liked the animated Harley Quinn butt. I don't know why I'm admitting that on the stream, but I saw it on an Instagram ad, and I saw it, and I said, I don't like that I'm attracted to this animated character's butt. But maybe, no shame. No shame. Okay, let's scroll down. Okie dokie 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 dokie. Leprechaun in the Hood is super fun, and I recommend it. Really leads into the camp. Ice-T is pretty great in it. That actually sounds super fun. I am vowing, though, that I'm not watching through the Leprechaun movies until I can get all of them on tape. I got 2 and 3. I'm on the hunt for Leprechaun 4, Leprechaun in Space, and Leprechaun 5 in the Hood, and Leprechaun 6 Back to the Hood, which might be a DVD-only release. I have to research that. But I want to get them and actually watch through them on tape. I did that last year with Nightmare on Elm Street. It ruled. Especially if you do it on a tube TV. CRT, baby. Okay, Jeebus 60. The Hip Hop Witch, a lot of history behind it. Eminem tried to press litigation to make sure it didn't get released. It's one of the worst films I've ever seen. It's terrible. I believe that. I think that I may have thrown it on at the video store back in the day because I was so curious. But everything about the box and the art, like, it all screamed to me that this was like, you know, in Bruno, in the movie Bruno, where Bruno's teasing the whole time how he has a big Hollywood interview with Harrison Ford, and they actually get to Harrison Ford, and it's just Harrison Ford being like, fuck off. That's how I imagine the entirety of the Hip Hop Witch being, that it's just performers who were, like, cornered in, like, alleys smoking a cigarette after the show or something, who are asked to, like, talk briefly on camera about a fictional witch, and they threw that together. That's my understanding, is that it's grab-and-go guerrilla footage that was edited to make something approximating a movie, but I haven't seen it. Okay, mainly rappers making up a story about the hip-hop witch bitch. Yeah. There you go. Would have been a direct-to-video, just happened to come out in 2021. Oh, that's about Guest House. It's new. Pauly Shore and it sucks. Fair enough. Okay, she does Harley for a video game, I think. Got it. And Pathos, yeah, I've never really been a Pauly Shore guy either, but I will say that I still quote that Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt line where, God, I forget her character's name, Jane Krakowski. It's kind of a weird plot with Jane Krakowski is native and decides to go assimilate with white culture in New York. Kind of a weird plot, but when she leaves her family, she says, as white people say, catch you later, buddy. And she does it with tears in her eyes. That's one of my favorite moments on a sitcom. And yeah, Stephanie, I don't know. Anyway, it's a friend of ours. Friend is maybe generous. I don't know her that well. She's cool. She's an acquaintance. She does Harley in some thing. Anyway, scrolling back up, let's try and double feature these. Anyone got suggestions for double features on these? Snoop Dogg's Hood of Horror maybe is the double feature with the Hip Hop Witch. Fascinating. Okay. Still hoping that Spaceballs 2, The Search for More Money, actually happens. I agree. I hope that if they do it, it is a parody of all the subsequent Star Wars world building. I think there's a lot to make fun of now with what has happened to Star Wars that is beyond just the original trilogy. It'd be very fun. My worry is that it would be rushed and put straight to video and not feel Brooksy at all. But I guess that's the worry with every movie that sounds like an interesting idea, is that it won't come out as an interesting movie. The one thing that bugs me about Spaceballs is that in the movie they pick up, the famous moment where they get the Spaceballs, the video, and they put it in the, it's alongside all the other Mel Brooks movies, and they take the tape and they put it in, they fast forward, rewind, to find where they are in the movie. What bothers me is that the tape they grab of Spaceballs is not the same art that would come out on this tape. I know that's very nerdy and nitpicky of me, but I really would have loved that I could be holding the thing that's in the movie. Perfect match. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, they just went with the poster they had, and the art department made a tape out of it, and they changed their mind later. But would have been cool. Would have been cool for that to be consistent. I know that's so stupid nitpicky. The Conjuring 3, meh. Munson says, meh. I have not seen Conjuring 2. I've seen the first one. I liked it a lot, but it's been a while. The House with a Clock in Its Walls, which is Eli Roth's kind of like gothic kids movie, if I recall. Haven't seen that either. Good Burger, I also haven't seen. Munson's, and I know a few of you just went, what? You haven't seen Good Burger? I don't know. I don't have any explanation, y'all. I loved all that. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and get some coffee. We drive on parkways and park on driveways. Discuss amongst yourselves. This is me getting coffee. This is the sound of it. I told y'all at the top of the stream that there was going to be a moment where I paused it to get coffee, but what you don't know is that I paused it in this moment. Not just to get coffee, but to get my head in the game. So I love All That, very much so. Is the first CD I ever got was the All That soundtrack. I was there every night for All That on SNCC. I loved Kenan. I loved Kel. I watched the premiere of Kenan and Kel. I had Coolio's tape. I was in it. And for some reason, I never saw Good Burger. I think maybe it was like I was just out of that phase, or I didn't think it looked that funny. Maybe I was a year too old and there was an action movie out or something and I was ready to feel grown up. I missed it. Anyway, that's a lot of talk for how I missed Good Burger, but All That in my heart forever. So, All That actually I kind of credit with getting me into like not only sketch comedy, which obviously All That is just SNL for kids, but also hip hop and R&B. Like the musical guests on All That, were always hip-hop or R&B acts. And that became, for me, just what I thought pop music was. And so I think my fandom of Nickelodeon honestly pushed me past a lot of, like, rock awareness straight into hip-hop. So All That forever. Anyway, that is to say, how was Good Burger? And how were all these movies, Munson? Well, Glowcat, thank you for... The Glowcat actually engaged in the question. Drive on a fish. The word apart is a singular word. Apart, yes. Oh my god. I'm with you, Pathos. Yes, Nickelodeon Roundhouse. I basically caught the end of Roundhouse, and then it pivoted and kind of got restructured. What up? Hey, thanks for the subscription. What up? You get a subscription dab. What up, Great Job Nerds? Good to have you in the house. Good Burger is a classic, Munson J says. Maybe I need to watch this. I certainly it's not as though it would be alien to me or that it would require a lot of context. You know what I mean? Like, I know all the pieces. I'm very aware of the Good Burger sketch, very aware of everyone who was on the cast, who was famous, who was popping at the time. I would probably have an effortlessly great time watching this movie. Again, I have no explanation for why I've never seen it. I think I probably need to check it out. But the thing is, we're going to need to order burgers if we watch Good Burger, because I just couldn't watch that movie without eating burgers. I found a really good burger spot near us called Mr. Beast Burger. This goes to show how out of the loop I am on a few things in pop culture. I didn't know Mr. Beast is like a famous streamer, YouTuber, and that that Mr. Beast Burger was like an art experiment, so it doesn't actually have a brick and mortar, or there's one and it's like an exhibit. Anyway, I just thought I found a great burger, and it's weird. It's my favorite local burger that I've found. If that makes me a bad Angelino, I apologize. And if anyone has good LA burger recs, send them my way, because I love a good burger. Okay, and Munson says House with a Clock on His Walls. It's fun, has a shoddy script. Kept him from enjoying it fully. I do enjoy the banter between Jack Black and Cate Blanchett. That's two of my favorite actors. Great cast. I think this is a problem that I run into, and Eli Roth is a complicated character, right? He has made a few movies that I think are brilliant. He's made a few movies that I don't think are that good. He's got his voice, can't deny that. But script writing, the dialogue has always kind of been the thing. His concepts are so good. So I'm wondering, did he also write that? Famous streamer, YouTuber, philanthropist. He gives tons of money away to everything. Yes. The virtual restaurant. Yes, it is a virtual restaurant. It's good, though. It's, like, really good. Those burgers are, like, tasty. Like, I'm craving one right now. If he's a good dude, if he's a philanthropist and he's giving money away, I am happy to support it. Conjuring 3 would have been better in Juan's hands as opposed to the director of Curse of La Llorona, the bad one. Okay, so they kind of did the horror franchise thing. What is up with, I want to say, man, I really love James Wan. I'm just learning that the original Saw has an NC-17. Interesting. This seems like a typical Wan move, right? Like, he does the first movie, the franchise blows up, and he kind of bows out and stops doing them. Feel like Saw, Insidious, The Conjuring, like, James Wan is your... He's going to direct your pilot, he's going to set the tone for your series, and then you're going to figure it out from there. And I feel like no one is as talented as he is when it comes to that. I mean, y'all saw Aquaman. Dude is a visual Lego master over here. Oh my God, Stephanie Michelle. Oh, only really enjoyed one of his films, to be honest. Which one, Glowcat? I'm curious. By the way, if it's Death Sentence, that movie kicks ass. Death Sentence is a really fun revenge movie. It does not, think Death Wish, think, maybe not I Spit on Your Grave. It's more of like a Man Unhinged movie. Death Wish it's really like a Death Wish remake. Death Sentence with Kevin Bacon is super fun, little cheap action movie with some really inventive camera tricks for the budget. Yeah, Kevin Bacon is terrific in it. It's super fun. Oh, Cabin Fever, his first one. Yeah. See, I remember when Cabin Fever came out, I didn't like it that much, and then I rewatched it and dug it more later. Did James Wan remake Death Wish? I didn't think that was him. I thought that was Fuqua. Let's see. 2018, Death Wish. Is Eli Roth? Oh, you're talking about Eli Roth. Yes, it is Eli Roth. Yes. I can't believe that he remade Death Wish. Like, and the time in which he remade it also, it was like 2018. like the peak of so many cultural shifts and drawing attention to like white privilege, institutional violence, police brutality, a lot of things that were finally starting to get talked about in a more mainstream way. And then Eli Roth's like, you know what I need to do? Remake a movie where a white guy kills a bunch of poor people for personal vendetta reasons because he's got a gun and he's a badass. I guess play into Poughkeepsie on that one. I didn't see it. I guess one of the rules of the stream is don't judge a movie you haven't seen. Maybe there's some dramatic, ironic turn in it, like with Green Inferno, where it's actually doing the Cannibal Holocaust thing, where the white colonialist kids are actually the bad guy. Maybe there is some smart thing, or like Hostel, where the frat boys are actually like a lesson in objectification, and it doesn't actually have the perspective you think it does. Eli Roth is very good at writing characters that aren't likable, but that represent something that can teach us. I think also it could just be that those are his characters. I don't even know what I'm saying with this sentence other than that I kind of like how I don't like Eli Roth's characters, and maybe I should... Okay. Is there an ironic thing with Death Wish? Or is it just Death Wish? Is it just straight up just this guy's family got killed and he's gonna murder a bunch of people? Have a Bronson collection, had to go see the remake, didn't like it, not at all. Timing couldn't have been worse. Sure, that wasn't completely unintentional. Felt glorified. There you go. Well, that's kind of what the trailer made it look like. Again, it's a rule of the stream that we don't judge things we haven't seen, because you could always be wrong, and trailers could always be misleading. But remember seeing the trailer for Death Wish in theater and thinking, ooh, just like big cringe energy. Okay, Death Sentence kicks ass though. And I know we have some, first of all, also, I skipped past this, Good Burger Double Feach, Harold and Kumar with Good Burger. That sounds amazing. Can we do that tonight, Stephanie? And if you're just joining, what up? What up? Stephanie is not feeling well today. Feeling well enough to be in the chat, not well enough to be on camera. So she is resting in the other room, cuddling the dog on her phone, watching us all. All right, I want to make sure that I don't miss anybody's watches. So I'm going to scroll up and make sure. Cool. Looks like we got caught up. Oh, fun Kate Blanchett story real quick. Great Job Nerds also used to work at this spot with me in Austin called Toy Joy. I'm sure I've mentioned it before. I can go grab my Toy Joy hat if y'all want. And our mutual friend Max, I remember being in the store with him on a particularly slow day where no one was really in. It was a very slow weekday, middle of the day, in a big toy store in Austin, Texas. We would have celebrities come through quite often because we had a bunch of fun, quirky, kitschy stuff that represented Austin. And whenever someone was in town working on something, we were the spot they went to. So much so that our employee handbook had a section on don't be weird with celebrities. They're going to come in, don't be a weirdo, act like they're anybody else, don't ask for a photo or an autograph unless they engage. That's the context. The story is that I was working a very slow day with my friend Max. I saw Kate Blanchett come in. I double-taked. I was like, oh, that's really Kate Blanchett. She was the only person in the store. I was just hanging out at the counter, shooting the shit with Max. He didn't see that it was her. I did. She went into the back corner to shop, had her back to us in the far corner of the store. Max is a huge Lord of the Rings fan, and also his crush on her was pretty well documented in our friendship. And so I was a manager and technically his boss, and so I said, hey, Max, I'm going to clean up by the counter. Can you go see if that woman needs any help? And it was just a real joy to watch Max walk over to her, go, hey, find everything you're looking for her to turn around and for her to be like, no, I'm doing fine, thank you very much. And him to go, yeah, sure, I'll just, if you need anything, like, maybe that was mean of me, but I thought it was adorable because he did his job very, very well. And, I don't know, just imagine tapping on someone's shoulder and they turn around and it's, living royalty. Okay. I'm scrolling down. Oh, Great Job, Nerds. You spoke to her. You asked if you needed any help. Oh, you were in the cafe. I was like, was it you? I'm pretty sure I did that to Max. That was you. You were in the cafe. That's amazing, dude. I did not speak to her. I did give Michael Cera directions to another toy store once, though. Cafe, nice. I need to see Ocean's 8. That's been on our short list as well. Okay, cool. Scrolling back up to see what have people mentioned that they did watch, didn't, missed something here from Pathos. Haven't seen Aquaman yet. Also, still need to see Wonder Woman 84. I mean, I can tell you I very much recommend Aquaman. I think it is bonkers fun. It still is a DC movie. It's still going to have its moments of weird plasticine masculinity and overwrought drama. It's there. It's DC. But it's also like the most colorful movie, maybe other than Birds of Prey, in their oeuvre. And James Wan really gets to go nuts on the visuals. It's quite fun. Wonder Woman 84 is like all the marketing was more color than anything else in their oeuvre and looked like Patty Jenkins got to go nuts. Turned out the studio micromanaged it, and it's kind of, I won't say it's terrible. It was definitely a big disappointment for a lot of people. I think for me personally, I felt that was relatively inoffensive, but so far from what I was hoping for. So, disappointing, but not the worst, maybe? Okay. Conjuring, seen that, gives the money away, yes, yes, yes. I have seen these, yes, we have. Okay, so it looks like the only Leslie Jones watching Saw on Instagram last week was Chef's Kiss. I did not know that. That sounds amazing. You gotta send me these things on Insta. Oh, by the way, our little sign right here is going to rotate with a few links. You can follow this stream on Instagram. It's at You Are In A Video Store. We are also now on Twitter, say Twitch, at You Are In A Video, because You Are In A Video Store was too many characters. And you can follow me on Instagram at Protextor. You can follow Stephanie at Flock of Smeagol's with underscores between the words. You can tip the show through our Cash App, Protextor. Which reminds me, I got to check in on my AMC stocks. And you can also catch archival episodes at youtube.com/babylion. We're a few weeks behind on that. I need to update it. Anyway, what was the next thing? Great Job Nerds watched The Last Temptation Photo Christ. It was cool. What are your thoughts? This is one of my favorite movies. This is maybe my favorite Scorsese movie. Yes, the fight at the end of Aquaman rules. Twitter, crazy CG lighting. Yeah, it's bonkers cool movie. I really like there's a scene in Aquaman where there's a bunch of kind of like monster fishmen who swarm around a boat in the middle of the ocean, and James Wan uses the digital, side note, I'll put a pin in that, uses a digital camera placement to be able to be incredibly wide on it so that you get this just beautiful painterly frame of a little boat alone in the darkness with all these glowing monsters. It's a really thoughtfully visual, fun movie. And my pin is that, okay, I want to try and say this quickly because I could really ramble. I'm kind of obsessed with the idea that we don't talk about digital cinema in the right way. We talk about it like it's film cinema. I've been obsessed with this idea for a long time. This was what I wrote my senior thesis on in film school, is why are we using words, language, grammar, syntax, etc., to talk about things that are purely digital? And obviously digital camera is going to be used for a million things, but I love movies that fully rebuke the rules of filmmaking to create entirely imagined realities. Because for me, film, the chemical analog 35 millimeter film, is burning real light onto a film strip, and then you project real light through what you've burned, and you get a shadow of the thing that's never there. So watching an old silent movie, you're watching light particles of ghosts. I love it. Digital doesn't do that. Digital recreates. It's not physical. It's not burning on with chemicals. It is a little digital brain, or a little digital eye, really, putting it together and reassembling it. So when something is a purely digital movie, I feel as though the rules for things being representative, things being realistic, things being told linearly even, the nature of cuts, the way film cuts together, you can do away with all of that. And I think that Aquaman really hits a peak of digital cinema in the sense that it creates something otherworldly in moments, not throughout the whole thing, but it has moments that truly transcend the limitations of the film format. The GOAT here for me is Speed Racer. That's another story for another time. And I look back at the chat and see that Great Job Nerds has written Speed Racer. I love you, dude. We're on the same page. I love that the Kuatoa come up when you hear Fishmen. And yes, love the coastline from Glowcat. Speed Racer is amazing. It's really one of my favorite movies. It had a little bit of a cultural reckoning the other day. Reckoning's the wrong word. Reappraisal on Twitter the other day, where someone tweeted about it and it briefly was trending, and it made me very happy. I hope that someday this movie truly gets celebrated for being as groundbreaking as it is. Quick example before I move on. Y'all remember, if you've seen Speed Racer, the transitions while people are talking, where it'll pan past their face and become like a new angle of them. The faces become the dissolves, or the faces become the wipes. The angles don't match. It's that one dialogue scene breaks every rule of filmmaking. It violates the 180-degree line. It does things that film is physically incapable of doing. It is in a purely digital space. The image was captured digitally. The image was manipulated digitally. The grammar of editing was done digitally in a way that an analog film cutting could not. And then it's presented in a digital projection. The whole movie exists in a fantasy. Digital is fantasy, film is reality. And I love movies that go full on for the fantasy. Okay, Last Temptation of Christ. I gotta take a sip of my coffee. Sound off, by the way. We try to ask a question every week. What's y'all's favorite Scorsese movie? I think mine is Last Temptation. I think it very well might be Last Temptation of Christ. What is yours? Sound off in the chat. And Great Job Nerds. I love that Stephanie doesn't even have to physically be on the show to read me for my overuse of the M word. Which, by the way, Stephanie, at this point, this is like, it's like when you go home for the first time from college and your mom's like, still leaving the socks on the floor? And you're like, I haven't done that in a year. Just saying. You're remembering a version of me that's now a ghost. Anyway, these movies are both complete masterpieces, and I really, really love them both so much. For me, it's Gangs of New York. That's a fascinating pick, Pathos. I've been really wanting to rewatch that. That's one of a few movies that I walked out of in theaters. Now, don't get upset. I love it. I watched it. I've watched it dozens of times since. Well, maybe I've watched it like 7 times since. But when I was 16, I went in theaters. Holdenwook and I walked out of it to go see Two Towers again because we thought it was too excessive. That's fucking little nerds. We were 16-year-old boys, and we're like, there's too much violence and boobs in this movie. What is it even trying to say? We walked out of it. That's so funny. I love Gangs of New York. I would really love to rewatch. King of Comedy for Munson. That is a great pick. I know Steph's been wanting to rewatch that. That was a new arrival for us recently on the show too. And yeah, Glowcat, it's a real hard pick. I think for me, it's down between Mean Streets and Last Temptation. Obviously, very different movies. Yes, it's non-religious, and I think the sad thing here, and we've talked about this on the show, so I don't need to make the same point a million times, but Last Temptation opened to mass protests from religious groups, from churches, because people thought that it was sacrilegious. Obviously, most of them had probably not read the book or seen the movie. They just thought that the humanization of Christ in this way was sacrilege. And then, of course, you compare that to something like Passion of the Christ, which made millions of dollars in the home video market by... I don't know if y'all remember this, but there was a time on Amazon when you could look up Passion of the Christ and you could buy like a 50-pack of tapes or DVDs for your church library, or to give away at church. There was like bulk, like that movie banked on religious groups. And it's so disrespectful to everything that's in the Gospels. It is so completely mercilessly violent and anti-Semitic and fetishizing of violence. We've talked about it before on the show, that it's just Mel Gibson like doing his action thing, but in a very callous way. Whereas Last Temptation, for me, Last Temptation came for me at the time in which I was, quote, losing my religion. I was raised in the Christian church, as we've talked on the show before, pretty progressive churches. Like, I was very lucky in many ways. I didn't have a toxic church experience as a kid like most of my friends did. But I watched Last Temptation I think the same year that I was becoming, I think, what I would now describe as agnostic. Really just like, I don't know. And starting to view the Bible as more of a historical text, and to view the Gospels as more of a pack of fables, of myths, to encourage us to be better people. One of my favorite quotes in the book, The Last Temptation of Christ, that I think encapsulates this, is there's a scene towards the end of the book, and it's in the movie. The dialogue's not in the movie, it's in the book, where Jesus, having decided to get down off the cross and live the life of a man, which is the last temptation of the title, is walking through the town square of Jerusalem, where he sees Paul delivering a sermon. Saul Paul delivering a sermon about him. He stops him. He says basically like, dude, I didn't die on the cross. Stop lying to everybody. Why are you lying? And Saul Paul says back to him, I don't care if you didn't die on the cross. My Jesus died on the cross. I build statues so that men try to be taller. And I think that is such a beautiful way to put the power of myth. Building statues so that people try to be taller. And I think that's what hit me with Last Temptation when I first saw it. Was just this, I can see this as, I can love the character of Jesus in this way of like, this unrealistically, inhumanly good person who sacrificed everything to love. That's very admirable. And I feel like Scorsese tells that story in a way that made me, as a rebellious little wannabe poking holes in religion teenager, actually come around and have a much healthier relationship with religion as a general force, much less Christianity. Anyway, I know that's a lot of talk on my personal history of this movie, but I truly love it. I also think that the ending, not to spoil, it's the gospel story, not to spoil anything, but there's a moment at the ending with the "it is accomplished" moment that Scorsese, speaking of what we were just saying with digital world versus film world, and like embracing the physicality of your medium, Scorsese embraces the physicality of decaying film, of overexposed film, of exactly what I was saying earlier, which is physical film is light captured. It is physical, it is real, it is an artifact. If you hold up a film strip, that's real. That is light. Those are photons that burned to this silver halide strip on plastic. Celluloid. Scorsese uses that, and at the end, I think, truly hits this like Bazanian Christian peak of transcendence. Honestly, I think the ending of Last Temptation, the very, very ending, the cut to credits moment, is one of a very few moments in film that I think actually accomplishes a spiritual transcendence. And now that I say that out loud, I think that's why it's my favorite Scorsese. Because I know that Scorsese always idolized things like The Gospel According to St. Matthew, Pasolini's Christ movie. Which, you know what, I'm going to put as a potential movie we can watch. Because Pasolini, this is his gay Marxist interpretation of the Gospels. Scorsese looks up to things like, oh, Hazard Balthazar, Gospel according to St. Matthew, Passion of Joan of Arc. These movies that touch anything by Robert Bresson, really. Things that touch on what Joseph Campbell would say is the transcendent. There's the thing, and just to paraphrase Campbell and reveal myself to be a big nerd, there are the things that we can put words to. There are the things that we can't put words to. And then there are the things above that that we can't really imagine. The transcendent. Only very rarely does art touch on that. And does the language of art do something that our minds and words are incapable of? I think the last 5 seconds of Last Temptation do just that. I'm going to scroll back up. It has pronounced squelchy blood gushing sounds like a horror or comedy movie. And DJ Stephanie Michelle co-signing, it's really so good. Real quick, we're going to talk about Conjuring 3 and Neighbors a bit more. And I'm going to say I'm with DJ Stephanie Michelle here. I also love The Departed. And I don't think it's weird at all that you like The Departed. It's a great movie. I am going to share a thing that I made because I never get the chance to share this. And I think that this is the group of people that would actually appreciate it. When I made this, I think I naively thought, like, this is going to go viral. This is hilarious. And then, like, 2 people watched it. Hold on real quick. Yeah, 33 views. I'm grabbing this. So here's my mashup of the end of Departed with Avengers Endgame, and the suggestion that the rat at the end of The Departed is actually a hero. And this was my effort to get Scorsese to be part of the MCU. Okay, it's silly and dumb, so don't expect much. Okay, I was pretty taken by the narrative, even though I'm familiar with the Passion story. It took me for a loop with the dream sequence on the cross. I was like, whoa. Yeah, I think that for a lot of people watching this, you're like, when's the temptation going to come in? And you're like, oh, it's the movie Last Temptation is just a grounded telling of the Gospels about a man who is terrified of God, terrified of trying to do the right thing, doesn't want to travel the world speaking truth and love, wants to get married and have a kid and settle down and be happy. And you don't realize that the movie is just the Gospels with a humanist perspective until the very end, and that's the temptation. I was also like, whoa. And scrolling down, I have heard of the Gnostic Gospels, but let's recap here. They are considered heretical Gospels written by an apostle named Thomas, in which Jesus says the way to enlightenment is looking through inward and seeking God within yourself. He still claims to be the Son of God, but doesn't say he is the path, only that he knows the path to heaven, which is within yourself. I love that. I'm a big fan of, like... Now, we have a mutual friend who's actually in seminary, and the interesting thing about this friend, one of the interesting things, I should say, is that not only are they in seminary, but they see the path in seminary as a way to introduce more humanist, non-literal reading into the world of Christianity and the Gospels. I'm not even sure that this friend would say they believe in God and Jesus literally. I'm not sure. I'm not going to put words in their mouth. But I know that they want to be in seminary because they want to encourage grounded, human, progressive approaches. And I've talked to them about Gnosticism because I'm a big fan of Last Temptation, and you might not know this, great job nerds, but if you didn't know this, well, you're very smart. You're still smart if you did know this, but it's particularly interesting if you didn't. Nikos Kazantzakis, the writer of Last Temptation, was a Gnostic. That was he was a Greek Gnostic. Greek Gnosticism, that was his Christianity. That is what he followed. And so I believe that was a huge influence on this text. Going back to our friend who's in seminary, when I finished this book, originally, I remember trying to research Gnosticism, learning about the Gnostic Gospels, and really wanted to explore that. And I remember this friend saying that they had some problems with that because they thought that Gnosticism was occasionally so esoteric that it wasn't for the people anymore. It wasn't transcendence and love for the people. It was transcendence and love for the academics. as an academically, as someone who likes academia, I think that clicked, and I was like, that's part of why I like it. But I understand it's not a very democratic way of looking at things, and so maybe there is something to be said for the two-sided coin of looking within yourself, but also having a leader, which I suppose having a mythical leader is better than having a literal leader, because mythical leaders can't let you down. Okay. You didn't know that. So, yeah, you put two and two together in a very smart way. Great job, nerds. Anyway, Last Temptation. One of the best things ever. I could talk about this all day long. I really like this stuff. And I would also recommend to you the Gospel of Judas, if you're interested. But yeah, it's really too bad how much some of these stories have become admired with a hateful evangelical capitalist American Christianity. And once you start uncoupling those things from the power structures, you end up with beautiful narratives, and you realize that those narratives are everywhere. I mean, you can't really say you don't like this, if you like Superman or The Matrix or whatever, you like the gospel story. And I think that's why Scorsese's Last Temptation of Christ was so controversial, is because not that it painted Jesus in a negative light, not that it was actually gonna upend anybody's relationship with their spirituality, but that it dared to uncouple the story of the Gospels from the power structures and dogma and evangelicalism of the church. End rant. Pathos watched Cruella this week too. I mean, Cruella's a Christ story too, right? No, I don't know. I haven't seen it yet. I'm really excited to watch Cruella. I just don't want to pay for it yet. Pathos, what did you think? I'm actually pretty stoked to watch this movie. More so than I thought I would be. Weirdly, maybe it's because I have to pay for it and wait. Now I'm starting to get weirdly hyped on it. What did you think? And then let me just scroll up to make sure that I'm not missing anything else. Raya is available now. Excited. I actually want to watch Raya and the Last Dragon. Fuck it. I'm going to throw out another question. Favorite Disney villain? I want to know your favorite Disney villain. I know that's a BuzzFeed-ass question, but I want to know, because what Disney villain do you think should pitch your origin story? Pitch your Cruella of someone else. I'll go first. No, I want you to kill time because I have no idea. What would your origin story be? Jafar would be incredible. I mean, I think that's the answer. Shit, that's the answer. Now, my question is, do you ever make him sympathetic? Does it start with Jafar, is he like a young student of magic who gets corrupted, or is he just a piece of shit his whole life? I kind of want an origin story where there's no point at which they're likable. It's just a bunch of them being shitty and gaining power. You know what I'm describing? I'm describing the Star Wars prequel trilogy. Ursula would be incredible. I know they're doing a live action Little Mermaid. I know they fucked up on the casting for Ursula already, but I'm willing to be intrigued. They cast Melissa McCarthy, which to me says they want comedy over Vamp, because I think we were all hoping that it was either going to be Lizzo or a drag queen to really embrace the queerness of the Ursula role. That would be incredible. Ursula, I think you could have. I think there is definitely some legs to that. No pun intended. Emma Stone's accent is forced. Emma Thompson killed it. Thought it was okay. CGI dogs looked awful. Yeah, I saw that CGI dogs clip too, and I was like, "What up, Disney? How many Air Buddies movies do y'all need to make before you nail how CG dogs should look?" Maleficent. Hey, what up, Wedge? What up, Wedge? Welcome to the party. Welcome to the party, pal. Maleficent. Favorite Disney movie, Sleeping Beauty. It's up there for me. It's up there for me, fam. Let me tell you that if you don't own this piece of physical media, I very much recommend it. I got teary-eyed watching the Blu-ray of Sleeping Beauty. Because the VHS and DVD releases, even though they were widescreen, were never. Sleeping Beauty was Walt Disney experimenting with putting things in an ultra-wide I'm totally blanking. CinemaScope format. Of course, he named it after himself, I'm sure. There is little detail and filigree along the edges to make every frame look like a storybook. That was just, it's 235 to 1. The DVDs were always 185 to 1. Once you watch the remaster of Sleeping Beauty in its full aspect ratio from its 1954 premiere, it's a moving experience. The mastery of the animation is uncanny. Very much recommend that disc. One of my favorite. And, honestly, I think the streaming version on Disney Plus is the full aspect ratio as well. So, but if you're watching it on a widescreen TV, just know that if you're filling the whole TV, that's 1851. I mean, you know this, you're a photographer. I'm saying this in general. But you get those black bars, you're watching the OG cut. You're watching the original full aspect ratio. I think it's on Disney Plus streaming in 235. Could be wrong. Jafar is such a good idea. And Ursula, played by Lizzo, absolutely would be incredible. Cosign, great job, nerd. I'm scrolling back up. Did you like Maleficent? Watch out, Wedge, because we got that movie. Did you like that? I actually took a little girl to see that I was babysitting at the time, and she loved it, and it was a really positive. I didn't like the movie that much, but I had a really good time watching it with a little girl who was super inspired by it. I saw through the child's eyes. Scar, or the mean Australian dude in Rescuers Down Under. Scar, I was joking that we should do a Scar one where we learn how he got his scar. Hashtag Scar. What about one for the hunter that killed Bambi's mom? But it's just a really Winter's Bone style bleak drama about trying to survive in the winter. And it's this guy teaching his kid how to hunt so they survive the winter. And it's completely perspective flipped. What about that? When are you gonna be brave enough to tell that story, Disney? Cancel culture. Someone's gonna take that out of context and cancel me. Jafar born as a snake and becomes a human. That's a good idea. That's $1 million idea. Oh, great job, nerds. What's the funny scoop about Melissa McCarthy? I totally missed you saying that. Yeah, feature film about past villains. That's why we're giving them free content right now. I hope Disney's watching, and they're going to send us all checks for our great ideas. Okay, I'm going to scroll through. Didn't see it. Correct aspect ratio on Disney Plus. It is. Okay, cool. I don't really want to see it. Do I have what? The Sleeping Beauty Blu-ray? No. You don't want to see Maleficent. I get you. Maleficent has a sexual assault plot in it, which I was thrown by. That's kind of her origin. And I would recommend that you maybe just do a little bit of reading before you watch it. I was thrown. Also, it was weird. It was weird talking about that with a child afterwards, too, because their perspective was so why didn't they just do this? And I didn't really feel like being, as a babysitter, did not feel like it was my role to unpack unpack that entire world. I don't even know what to unpack that with her. Your hunter giving me Grendel vibes. Ooh, nice. Love it. And of course, I'm stoked for Love and Thunder. Did y'all see that image of Hemsworth with his arms jacked? It's insane. I love how they are fully embracing 80s He-Man, the 80s post D&D fantasy muscle man boom, Conan, He-Man, other names that end in A-N. I thought it looks awesome. It's very heavy metal. I'm very there for it. He's gonna be playing Hulk Hogan. That's perfect. It looks like Jack in big trouble. He does. He is certainly jacked, and we are in big trouble. My libido's in big trouble watching him be that jacked. Melissa McCarthy is playing an Asgardian actress portraying Hela in Thor: Love and Thunder. That's fun. That like Matt Damon. Matt Damon style role. Yeah, I saw there was a viral tweet about how Thor's arms were going to make men insecure. And I don't want to speak for men, but I think there's a lot of things making people insecure about their bodies in the media, but I don't feel particularly threatened by someone who's paid to have giant arms to play a god. But I don't speak for all men, so I don't know. What do you think? Do you think it's with the MCU? This is in good faith, earnest question. Is the MCU kind of splashing some of that body image back on men that typically has been a burden borne by women or female identifying folks forever? Do you think that Marvel is doing that by having all these godly bodies just for a few seconds of screen time? Thor's arms give me a non-threatened erection. That's kind of where I'm at. But I don't want to be like, I also don't want to be like, what's up? Thanks for tuning into my bro show where I tell you that your thoughtful progressive tweet is fucking wrong. I could be wrong. Personally think it looks pretty cool. Okay, well, I love these origin stories we came up with. I really do. I had one, y'all. I really had one. Let's see here. What about one where we see it's Gaston, but he's not sympathetic? It's just like a Joker movie. What if Gaston's like a sweet young boy, and the whole movie is kind of just this like hopeless Michael Haneke's The White Ribbon style, incredibly realistic, slow-paced movie about living in a small town in rural France, and he's born as a sweet boy, and the toxic expectations placed on him and reinforcements, and we just see him turn into the epitome of toxic masculinity, and it's meant to be heartbreaking. What if that's the movie? Okay. I did not hear the Rob Zombie news. What is it? Please do tell. He lived in ye olde society. I like that too. His youth is acquirable. Oh, he's making a Monsters movie? Yeah, Gaston's the worst monster in Disney history because he's the only one that we know in real life. I love that. Great job, nerds. And the Monsters news, that is awesome. That is so exciting. I am almost flushed. I did not know that. That's it's so perfect. It's so perfect. I mean, you gotta love seeing someone get to do the biggest fan thing, you know? Like, that's such a dream come true for him. I mean, I think it will be a comedy. I hope so. I hope it's a PG comedy. Like, that sounds so fun. I mean, to have your biggest hit be named after the coffin hot rod from your favorite TV show growing up, and to have all of your MTV Cribs style stuff be you showing off all of your Monsters memorabilia, and then 25 years later, you get to take that IP and make it yours. After doing some of those brutal hard R horror movies, getting to, I'm salivating at the prospect of this. It sounds amazing. Chasing the Monsters for over 20 years. Yeah, I mean, yes. In his Dragula. God, you know what the ultimate artist signing their work moment would be there? Is if that end credit song has to be Dragula, right? I know that's maybe an obvious idea, but I feel like that would be the most RZ moment that you could throw on that shit. Yeah, follow your dreams. And I wonder whose wife is gonna play Marilyn Munster. I don't know whose wife should play the female lead in the new Rob Zombie movie. Let's place our bets now. You know, I really do love how she's been his muse for years. Because not only has Sherry Moon been in every single one of his movies in a lead role, she's the pinup art and the cover girl for everything going back to White Zombie, and she's in the liner notes for, yeah. She's everywhere. But I love their relationship. You know, it used to be that thing where you'd be like, you know how Marilyn Manson used to have that thing where it was like, oh, he's a shock rocker and he says fucked up stuff, but watch him in an interview and, oh my God, he's really like smart and thoughtful and like dissects these things and wow, he's so smart and cool. And Rob Zombie, you know, he does scary music too, but he's just a big old horror nerd. He just loves this stuff. He's just a big old dork with a collection of, like, he's like we are. I really love that while Marilyn Manson has been exposed as like a piece of shit serial abuser, Rob Zombie has just never not been a big silly kid. Rob Zombie is weirdly such a wholesome piece of American culture. Anyway, big love to Rob Zombie. Love you, dude. If you're out there watching, we really like you around these parts. All right, I'm gonna get through what I watched. I know we're anxious to get to Movie Club this week, which was Hedwig and the Angry Inch, one of my favorite movies of all time. We're going to get to it. I'm going to tell you what I watched. Hey, if while I'm telling you what I watched and talking about my brief opinions, I'm going to try and limit it to 1 or 2 sentences per thing, because we've been streaming we're already more than an hour in. If you're like, oh, I love that movie, have you seen this? Please, I love the chat. I want your recs. But I will try and do, for each one of these, I'll try and tell you, how about this? A 1-sentence review, if I recommend it, and who I recommend it to, and what I think a good double feature would be for it. Okay, let's go. Bowfinger. 1-sentence review. This is so hard. This is not how I speak. Bowfinger. I liked this a lot more now than I liked it when it first came out. Eddie Murphy is incredible in it, in his dual performance. And it's a really charming, lovely piece of pop art that inspires you to follow your dreams. What's to dislike? I recommend it to fans of comedy. Steve Martin and Eddie Murphy are just having a very fun time. I would say I recommend Bowfinger. Also to anyone who's ever wanted to make a movie. It's a very inspiring little flick. And finally, Bowfinger double feature. Bowfinger double feature. How about, it's got to be something where people are trying to make a movie on the low. How about American movie? How about Bowfinger and American movie? All right. Spaceballs we talked about. That's a fun one. We watched Liar Liar. DJ Stephanie Michelle, who's in the chat, and I watched Liar Liar this week. And had a really fun time. Here's my one sentence review. This is one of Jim Carrey's most incredible, great performances. The script and direction around him, not super strong. Pretty by-the-numbers movie, but Carrey's performance should not be swallowed by that because he's kind of on fire in it. He gets to be crazy rubber-faced Carrey. He gets to be likable, sensitive Carrey. And the best line read in the entire movie is straight-faced, the day that he discovers he can't lie and he's in court. And the judge says, "What's wrong with you?" And he just leans forward very casually and goes, "I'm still recovering from an awkward sexual encounter I had last night." I can't do it justice. I'm not as funny as Jim Carrey. I had a really good time watching him in this. I would recommend this to people who want to see a fantastic physical comedy performance. I think this movie, weirdly, it's like not that great of a movie, but again, his performance in it is kind of an all-time physical comedy performance. It's kind of up there with the greats. And, I mean, he is up there with the greats, obviously. And finally, double feature Liar Liar with The Invention of Lying. Ricky Gervais comedy, The Invention of Lying. It's the plot of Liar Liar inverted. What does Why Not do? I don't know what Why Not does. You tell me what you want it to do for 10,000 channel points and I'll do it. How about that? Because that's a big redemption right there. I don't know what it does, because why not? I think that's an Alon thing. I missed earlier, but I watched Crazy Stupid Love. I love that movie. Steph and I have been talking about rewatching that. Father of the Bride Part 2, 10 Things I Hate About You, and Secret Life of Walter Mitty. Well, that's a really interesting lineup right there. What was your favorite out of those? Crazy Stupid Love, I really dig that movie quite a bit. We were talking about watching it after watching La La Land, and hey, Emma Stone, because Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling, and hey, Emma Stone popping up again. Father of the Bride Part 2, that's the one where they have a baby, right? That's also Steve Martin. I haven't seen that since I was a kid. I probably watched that on a rental VHS from Blockbuster last time I saw it. 10 Things I Hate About You is an all-timer. I mean, not only is Heath Ledger just babely as hell, but it's one of that 90s let's adapt Shakespeare as teen movies movement. He really is the GOAT. I would say double featuring that with either O for the other side, or Clueless would be fun. And Secret Life of Walter Mitty was one that Ben Stiller had been wanting to make for years, because he was... there was an interview with him, I think Terry Gross, where he talked about how he was... There's something about Mary was a double-edged sword for him. On the one hand, it catapulted him to comic superstardom, obviously gave him his career in a giant way, in a bigger way, and it didn't give him his... You know what I mean. On the other side, it pigeonholed him into broad comedies. Gross out comedies. And he lamented that he never really got the chance to kind of get into more of like the Peter Sellers territory that he wanted to be in. And I think you can see the Peter Sellers influence on Walter Mitty. He's also directing Walter Mitty, which makes it the fourth movie I think for Ben Stiller, that makes it Reality Bites. I'm going to miss one here. Reality Bites, Zoolander, Tropic Thunder, Cable Guy, Walter Mitty. And so it's almost like this return to Reality Bites style storytelling. Made it halfway through Hedwig before I had to change the baby. Half liked Crazy Stupid Love. It hits different after you have a kid. Interesting. 10 Things absolutely fucking rocks. Totally agreed. Walter Mitty is very inspiring for photography. For a photographer. Also very much adore his performance. That is something I might want to revisit. It's kind of like his Day the Clown Cried. Maybe that's a harsh thing to say. Jerry Lewis made a movie called The Day the Clown Cried, which was like a serious World War II drama. And you can't watch it. It's like a mythical movie that never got released. But it was Jerry Lewis trying to make something really serious. And it wasn't critically well received. I think the same thing kind of happened with Walter Mitty. Where it wasn't super critically well received, but it was a passion project for Stiller. So I think I would be pretty interested in watching that. Styled a huge photo shoot inspired by reality lights. It's completely lost to time. That is, I hate that shit. That's the worst. We're kind of living in an era of ephemeral art, though. I have a friend who used to do Instagram hashtag art projects. And Great Job Nerds and I do this every year too. We usually hashtag super spooky scary and then the year number. And it's just a title screen. Like just the title, square format, so that when you scroll through, all you see is the titles. And our friend used to do this thing called the One Door, which was the same silhouette of a door at the toy store we worked at every closing shift. So going back, you can scroll through it and you can see hundreds, and it becomes this Instagram art project where the grid becomes the experience. Anyway, I'm just spitballing about ephemeral art, the fact that in our digital world nothing lasts. And it's weird. I think that's really like the reason d'etre of the show is having physical things to survive the test of time. Moving on, Death Becomes Her. Okay, now I actually have my stack. Death Becomes Her. Dug this movie. Had been a while since I've watched it. Maybe since high school. Really fun rewatch, especially after moving to LA. Satire on the living dead of Beverly Hills, satire on the obsession with looking young, with getting work done. All three actors in this bringing just such a joyful game. All of them just playing against type. Bruce Willis as the nerdy pushover, Meryl Streep as the terrible diva, Goldie Hawn as the shut-in cat lady. Like, they're all having so much fun with it, and it has this moralistic, doomed, existentially horrifying moralistic ending that feels a lot like Tales from the Crypt, and the whole movie feels like Tales from the Crypt, and gentle viewers, that's because it was maybe supposed to be a Tales from the Crypt movie before it was changed to be standalone. And Robert Zemeckis, of course, director of this, and one of the creators, executive producers of Tales from the Crypt, directed the pilot episode of that show. Anyway, recommend this to everybody, especially fans of dark comedies, and if I double feature it with something, it's gonna be with Death Becomes Her. Anyone got a good one for this? The Curse of Immortality. This isn't all that hat. Thank you, Holden Wook. I actually paused the stream earlier to grab it because Keenan and Kel came up. Good Burger came up. And on Blue, yes, this is a Scream Factory release. Scream Factory obviously puts out a lot of really great stuff on disc, and they remaster most of it. How much was that? I got it, I think, for like $15 because it was on sale, but it's on screamfactory.com or Amazon. It's just look up Collector's Edition on Amazon. They weirdly hide some of the Shout Factory stuff. Witches of Eastwick. That's a good call. Yes. Yeah, the Death Becomes Her DVD, and the DVD's in full frame, isn't it? Like, this movie's, you kind of had to chase this movie around. I'd say if you want to buy it now, it's probably like $22. That's kind of their base price on their website. Cool. I also watched Death Becomes Her because I've been trying to jump into queer horror, and while this is not queer horror, it is certainly very camp. And I wanted to play with some of that. I've been wanting to rewatch it. I mean, you can see the camp from the poster art on this. But if you want to talk about queer horror, here's the part I'm going to recommend strongest of all. Is I ended up doing... I talked about how I would share this at the beginning of the stream. I ended up doing an accidental little queer horror film fest that I dug so much so that I repeated it the following night with Stephanie. Because I told her, I was like, I watched these things back to back and it ruled. And she's like, that sounds fun. It's like, let's do it again. So I actually did this twice in a row. Starting with the American experimental filmmaker Kenneth Anger, who began working in the 40s, late 40s, and would produce films all the way through the 70s. One of the most predominant, like, prototypical gay filmmakers in cinema history. He predominantly worked in the experimental film realm, producing shorts. He was also a follower of Aleister Crowley and incorporated a lot of satanic imagery and Baphomet imagery into his works, and very much like this. Not to get too deep down the rabbit hole, but like this William Blake like inversion of actually what we were talking about with Last Temptation. This inversion of morality of perhaps God in heaven is restrictive, moral, dogmatic. Perhaps the liberation from those rules is the holy thing. Perhaps Satan is not an evil presence because that character is representing a liberation from the rules of chastity, and it's not... Anyway, it's liberation. You can see that all through Kenneth Anger's work. So, and if anyone has anything to add on that, I'm fascinated. Yes, and Death Becomes Her effects were very fun. You can definitely see Zemeckis loves to play with that. But Kenneth Anger, 2 shorts by him. Watched 2 of them. One of them is earlier than the other. The first one is called Puce Moment. And you know what? I'm going to share these YouTube links as I discuss them, because I watch them on YouTube. Hopefully, in a few weeks, I will be able to get the Kenneth Anger DVDs, but I'm trying not to spend too much money on them right now. I did, however, find Kenneth Anger's Volume 2, which I'll probably be getting in the next few days. I sprung for it because I've never seen it below 50, and someone randomly threw a copy up on eBay for 15, and I grabbed it. So that'll be coming. Kenneth Anger, though, just a fantastic voice in American cinema, and really the creator of some very seminal queer works, including Puce Moment, which I'm dropping here, and Fireworks, which were the two. So we watched these two shorts back to back. See if I can find the one I watched. There it is. One from 47, one from 49. Now, Puce Moment is truly a moment. It is a 6-minute film that predominantly looks at is set to music, and it is a woman trying on different beautiful dresses, relaxing on a futon, and finally walking a pack of 4 bourgeois dogs. It drips with a longing to exist within a female idiom. It drips with a longing to be free, and I love that it has no plot or nothing happens to this woman. She simply exists. She's simply existing, lounging, feeling herself, and radiating this gorgeous power. It's really beautiful. It feels like a seminal work of drag. Start with Puce Moment. Then Fireworks. Fireworks is the gayest movie I've ever seen. It is described as the first gay narrative American film. It is a fever dream of a young man who goes out onto the town after waking in bed unsatisfied with an erection, and goes out into the town, finds a pack of aggressive sailors who represent sex but also represent violence. There's a lot of BDSM interplay. Essentially, the plot is he interacts with these sailors. Whether that's being beaten or being loved is up to the viewer's discretion, viewer's interpretation. And he returns to bed more fulfilled. It is a fever dream about the night being a world that is full of monsters, but monsters that liberate you to become the person that you are, and monsters that are actually only monsters because of the limitations that a patriarchal society has imposed upon them, and what we are supposed to be and what we are not supposed to be. Okay. Still with me? Puce Moment, Fireworks, 2 Kenneth Anger works. Led us into Nightbreed, which is another movie, another explicitly queer-coded text about a man who seeks his own liberation and personal fulfillment and the becoming of his true self by escaping the bounds of a society that is built on mob mentality, toxic, backwards thinking, and frankly, clinical psychologists trying to describe what he has as a mental illness instead of an essential part of his identity. Watched the director's cut. Had never seen it before. Clive Barker, just in general, Clive Barker's works are super important queer horror texts. Nightbreed, especially after watching Fireworks, almost fit too well. This movie's incredible. Really recommend it to any fans of monster stuff. If you just want to watch it for effects, watch it with Basket Case 2 and 3. You're going to be in effects Monster City. But if you want to, perform the reading of it as a queer text, it will continue to reward you. That's certainly the view I tried to watch it in, and I think Stephanie as well, and it was magnificent. So, following up with our film fest, Frankenstein, another movie about a monster who is queer-coded because society has rejected him, as well as Dr. Frankenstein himself being a very gay-coded character, in a I'm obsessed with my work, leave me alone, to his fiancée sort of way that also we see echoed throughout things like Nightbreed. Watching Frankenstein again was really interesting to watch with this lens. And finally, I'll just zoom out a little bit and say that, Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein, as well as The Old Dark House, all movies by James Whale, are explicitly queer-coded texts from the 30s. James Whale was a prominent gay director, and his work, his life and work has been explored in things like Gods and Monsters. But Nightbreed, Frankenstein, both gay directors making queer-coded horror films, Clive Barker and James Whale, 50 years apart, along with that Kenneth Anger to start you off and get you in the right headspace of like this moody, violent, but liberating energy, was truly like an awesome experience. And then after that, watched Hedwig, which is Hedwig and the Angry Inch. Hedwig is its own Frankenstein story about finding yourself on the margins of society. So honestly, Nightbreed, Frankenstein into Hedwig and the Angry Inch was one of the most satisfying 3 back-to-back movie experiences I've ever had. It was like just loaded with thematic stuff to dissect. I kind of had a little a ball, no pun intended, and just dug it. Okay. Nightbreed changed my perception of monsters as a kid, and likely has a lot to do with who I am as a person today. By making the monsters sentimental, it made me realize that not all monsters could be bad, and I became quite obsessed with them. Thanks, Clive. I think that Clive Barker might shed a tear reading that. I honestly wish that we could, is he on Twitter? I kind of want to share that you said that on the stream with him on Twitter. I love that. I mean, why make art if not to do exactly that, to help someone change their perspective and help them figure out who they want to be. That's actually really beautiful. Thank you for sharing. And I want to agree with Stephanie Michelle too. It's a terrifying villain mask, and David Cronenberg's performance in this is so weird. Is it a bad performance? Is it a great performance? We don't know. We only know that that mask with those little button eyes is so freaky. And it wasn't until this watching either, when I was trying to explicitly think, okay, I'm going to watch this as a metaphor, did I think of that character as being, like he says, I'm death, and he wants to lie about everything and keep it all covered up. The fact that this movie is coming out in 1990 after the AIDS epidemic, so many people died because doctors weren't treating things right, because homophobia was rampant in the medical industry, because people being marginalized to the nightlife, the freaks of society were not being treated as though they deserve the same thing. The fact that Cronenberg calls his character in this death. There really is he really does seem like this specter of an uncaring, patriarchal medical industry that just wants to dissect you and doesn't want to help you. Scary stuff. And I fucking love Hedwig too, and we're going to get to it right after we do New Arrivals. That, I think, wraps up our What Did You Watch section. Thanks for letting me rant on stuff for so long tonight, gang, but I'm really getting into this, really getting into queer horror this month. And maybe that's something we could talk about for future movie club. Also, thank you to Great Job Nerds, who sent me a really fantastic Instagram post on queer horror films that I will, my phone died doing this, but I will try and share to our Instagram. Or no, I already did share. So check our story and you will see that link. Also, there's a great piece from Vulture. If you Google 55 queer horror, you'll find it. It's a chronological list and it has little breakdowns for a lot. So if you watch something and you want to explore it more, it's probably got a little takeaway on there that might interest you. Cool. Well, without further ado, y'all, let's move into the New Arrivals portion of the show. It's going to be short, and then we'll get to Movie Club and talk about Hedwig. New Arrivals, baby. I'm going to crack the window a little bit here. Not too much. All right. Like I said, we're downsizing our purchases. We're balling on a budget. It's more expensive to live in LA. Just say it's more expensive living out here than it was living where I was living. And that means we get to buy less movies. But it doesn't mean that we're buying less cool movies. Really excited actually about some of the things that we got on pre-order that are coming out in the future. But this week, we have a fun little thing. Last week, I told y'all that I got a copy of Matrix Revolutions from a fire sale and a tape group. Now, I know this isn't like the most desirable tape in the world, and most of us are going to watch Matrix on widescreen HD format probably because of the nature of the movie. But I recently learned that this is on the tail end of VHS putting out and apparently is very sought after. A lot of $100 copies of this floating around eBay. I saw it in a fire sale for $8 and I said, you know what? I'll get that now. If it's going to be a really rare thing for no reason. I love The Matrix enough to own it on every format. And so because I couldn't just have this and the first one, I had to get Reloaded on tape too. Set me back about $3. But you know, I probably will end up watching the Matrix trilogy on tape at some point in the not too distant future. Speaking of fun fire sale stuff, these are a few things that I got not on a fire sale, but this weird website I found months ago called ElvisDVDcollector.com. It's a German website. They have a bunch of tapes. They don't have the most desirable tapes because I don't think they've ever added new inventory. But they were the people I got my copy of Popcorn from months ago. Popcorn, really fun 80s horror flick on tape. And it was just so hard to find and so expensive. And I remember Google shop results. And it was $10 on this guy's website, this German website. So anyway, cheap stuff. I found a few more cheap ones I picked up just to have them. Monster High. If you know Monster High, you know it's not a great movie. But it's fun. And it's definitely a ripoff of Teen Wolf in the sense that it's like monsters playing basketball. But it's also weirdly like, I don't know if Space Jam writers saw this, but this is also like, I love Glowcat. I love your enthusiasm for it. Monster High rules. Maybe I need to rewatch this. I remember renting this years ago. I remember renting this years ago from Vulcan Video in Austin, Texas, because of the cover, and just be kind of disappointed and thinking it wasn't as good as I wanted it to be. Maybe I need to just readjust my expectations. In any case, I think Space Jam is a remake of this, like secretly, because this is a story about monsters who come to Earth and they have to be defeated in a basketball game by kids at a high school, or the entire Earth is doomed. It was a grail of yours. Do you have it? Have you found it? Kind of want to help you find a copy. This one personally came broken, so so I had to. Unfortunately, you can see that line through the title there. I had to take a razor blade to this and open it up because the gate up here arrived snapped, and so I had to go through my commons of my tapes that I think this is a Hope Floats flap. Random tapes that I've gotten over the years that I just use as like risers for the shelf. So I had to go through those and find a flap that matched and actually fix this with a screwdriver right after I got it in the mail. But it's fun, and I, remove the labels using a hairdryer. That is a really good tip, Glowcat, and I'm also very glad that you have it. Weirdly, this is one I always wanted to pick up. And now I'm going to try and remove this sticker with a hairdryer so I don't tear through the box here. This is one I always wanted to pick up, and kind of always was like, it'll be around. And I would always see it for like $5. And then only recently did I see that it had become rather expensive. And that's when I remembered that I'd seen it on that German website, and I went and ordered it because he sold it, I think, for $5. The other one I got from him, Future Kill. Future Kill's a real fun movie. It's basically, it's kind of like an early cyberpunk work. It's basically just about a bunch of frat boys, teenagers, who end up in like a future dystopia cyborg city and are hunted by Marilyn Burns and Edwin Neal, who were in Texas Chainsaw Massacre together. Edwin Neal produced this and stars in it. So I directed Edwin Neal in my movie years ago. He flew up to Iowa and played the President of the United States in my horror movie. And for those of you who don't know, Edwin Neal is the guy from the beginning of Texas Chainsaw Massacre who gets in the van and cuts his hand open and is like, ah. That's him. And he's made quite a career going to conventions and flipping movie memorabilia on a variety of... He's actually kind of an expert on poster history, for instance. He's a really fascinating guy to talk to. He's a real big personality, super fun, and his wife is wonderful. And honestly, I'd never seen Future Kill before working with him. He loves it. He wanted he gave me a Future Kill t-shirt. He gave me and my partner Louie t-shirts, and I had to watch it after that. Finally got it on tape. It's the Vestron, so it looks nice with the other Vestrons here on the shelf. It's a real fun movie. He told me that he pitched this to New Line, and a couple years later they came out with Freddy with the knife glove, and to this day he thinks that they stole the Freddy knife glove idea from this. The other cool piece about Future Kill is that this is H.R. Geiger, the guy who designed the Xenomorphs. In the Alien franchise, they got him to do the poster art. Shot in Austin. Dude, that's super rad. He's a really nice guy. He put in whiteout. He had to play like a zombie. He became a zombie at some point in the movie. He had to put in whiteout contacts that you can't see through. He was a champ. He was a real cool guy to hang out with. He stayed at my to save money on budget, he stayed in the guest room at my parents' house in Iowa City. That's awesome that you also got to meet him at a convention. He's very easy to talk to. If you've met him, you know that he's just like a, what up, kind of guy. And yeah, I think he lives in Dallas. Yeah, Geiger kicks much ass. But that was like, it's kind of inspiring, right? Because it's like he was in this low-budget Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And he's a small character in it. But then he was able to, get Geiger to do some cool art, come out to LA, have some pitch meetings, and get this movie made. And now it's like his, the cult movie he made when he was young. That'll always be around. Okay, the final thing that arrived. Not proud of this purchase. I think I bought this the weird thing is, I bought this almost a month ago. It took a weirdly long amount of time for this to get here on eBay. Especially considering that what it is. I think I paid $2 for this. This was a late night purchase, meaning I don't remember purchasing it. I'm just going to hold it up in shame. Anyone a big fan of this movie, though? I just remember seeing this in theater or renting it when I was 15 and thinking, my God, it's so terrible. I don't think I ever thought this movie was good. But there was just something, it's one of those things where maybe when I was 15 and, serious about film, I was like, what a piece of garbage. And now that some time has passed and I'm older, I feel this weird nostalgic for the simplicity of a bad movie from 2001. Yeah, it's deeply bad movie, guys. It's deeply bad. It's a mess. Richard O'Brien's in it. Jeremy Irons is in it. Thora Birch is in it. Maybe it's just still bad. I think, honestly, it's just going to be that thing where I'm more forgiving because I'm older and can see it with a nostalgic lens now. It no longer represents, where cinema is heading. I think as a 16-year-old, 15-year-old, film kid, you get more concerned about, these are, the state of the world is terrible. I think as time goes on, you look back and you're like, there's always bad movies. It's okay. It's not the end. Reign of Fire is a fun rewatch. You have no memory of it existing, Holden Wook? That's hilarious because I'm pretty sure that we watched it in theater together. I could be totally wrong there. Oh, you watched it in Video Club. I love that. And by the way, Glowcat streams also. I don't know if you're streaming later tonight, Glowcat, but check out their channel. And also, I didn't realize that you did it in Scrubhouse Video Club. You should also check out Glowcat's Scrubhouse Video Club. They are a video club, and also I had to put it on the back row to fit the Hong Kong movies. They've also made some incredible VHS mixtapes. Do stream later tonight, so everyone click on the profile name, hold down Command on your keyboard, and click, and that's going to open a new tab without closing this one. And you can go ahead and sub to Glowcat as well. Reign of Fire does kick ass, just to say, it is a banger. Great job, nerds. You got me Reign of Fire on Blu-ray as a birthday present, 8 years ago. And it's real fun. And it's funny, Rain of Fire. Some things time is generous to because it allows you to have tempered your expectations and to not care. Some things time is generous to because it genuinely was ahead of its time. I think that Dungeons and Dragons is going to be a time has been generous to because I don't care anymore, versus something maybe like Rain of Fire where you're just watching it and being like, oh, I just wasn't prepared to like this when it was first out. And yes, it did really set a standard for dragon visuals. I mean, the Harry Potter dragons pretty much look like Rain of Fire dragons. And related, I remember Dragonheart being awesome, but haven't seen it anytime recently. Can anyone confirm? Wedge, that was one of my favorite movies as a kid. That was actually one of the few tapes I owned. Like, it is still in my collection. Because I started buying tapes when I was like 8 with my allowance. I think Dragonheart I bought used from a Blockbuster when I was like 8 or 9. It is still on my shelf. It might be one of the top 5 oldest pieces of media that I personally have bought. I love it. I actually did start rewatching it a few months ago. It was late night. I'm going to fall asleep to this kind of put it on. Not like I'm going to rewatch this in earnest kind of put it on. But, yeah, it's great. It's fun. I mean, it's Dennis Quaid riffing with a big CG dragon that looks better than it should. It's a medieval villain who's more evil than he needs to be for the plot. And Pete Postlethwaite is in it being a silly, silly comic relief character. Also, can we talk about how DJ Stephanie Michelle's mom loves dragons a lot? Because that's adorable. Now that you mention it, though, I did get her a first edition Anne McCaffrey book for Christmas last year, so I remember that. Glowcat, going back. Glowcat has a showing of the Scrubhouse Video Club's mixtape on the 17th, first big event we've been able to do since the pandemic, and the first time it's being shown publicly. Well, now I can't not grab it. So, just let me scooch this out of the way. This is what Glowcat is referring to. It is called The Mixtape. The back, right at the top, says, it's a bootleg videotape. It's The Mixtape Volume 1. If you ever do Volume 2, you have a copy pre-sold to me from Scrubhouse Video Club, SVC. Check them out on Twitter and Insta. This is just a super off-the-wall collection of clips from every kind of movie cut together in a super entertaining way. It's there is an art to creating a mixtape, and this is a standout example of that art being done well. Sincerely, one of my favorite things that is in the collection is this right here. So, y'all go follow Glowcat. All right. I love all the dragon talk, too. And then that's it. That's it for new arrivals, y'all. Like I said, just a couple tapes and Dungeons and Dragons on special edition DVD from 2001. Yay! I think we've got some fun stuff coming, though. Absolutely. Credit where credit is due, my friend. I'm going to look at I try to keep a list of stuff that's coming in the mail. And so let me just give you a little preview here. Okay, I actually have a couple tapes coming from some Facebook fire sales that should be on the way. Shout Factory's got a few new Studio Ghibli steelbooks that are coming out that I pre-ordered. We've got the Dune Deluxe Steelbook version coming from Diabolic DVD. That won't be here until August. And I think I'm going to try and pick up their copy of True Romance they're dropping this month. As far as after that, still waiting on my order from Hong Kong Rescue. Hong Kong Rescue did put out The Killer recently. Here's the only Hong Kong Rescue disc I have. This is a one-man operation in Portland of a guy who tracks down 35mm prints of Hong Kong movies that have not received properly remastered or poorly or well subtitled releases in the US, and he sources them together, remasters them on his own, does all the subtitles to make them as accurate as possible, releases them with a bunch of special features and alternate cuts. It's an incredible labor of love. I'm sure it takes a lot of time. It also takes a lot of time for them to arrive in the mail. On the off chance that the man who runs this company sees this. Not trying to throw shade. I just can't wait to watch my discs. I ordered the whole catalog from them last November. Still waiting, so it takes a while. But I also just put in a pre-order for The Killer, so fingers crossed that I get them all here and we get to unbox it together on the stream. That being said, guys, that's the end of Movie Club. That's the end of New Arrivals. Movie Club is just around the corner. I'm going to take a quick commercial break because I want to refill my drink and check in to see how Steph's doing. See if she wants to join for the Movie Club IRL or stay in the chat. Either works. And yeah, no worries. Wedge, if you get the chance to finish it, let us know what you think. Please, all love to you and your family. And have a wonderful week. I hope we get to see you next week, too. Bye, Wedge. Bye, Abby. Okay. Movie Club. Movie Club. All right. The movie of the week this week was Hedwig and the Angry Inch. I realized upon rewatching this movie that it is in a dead heat tie with Little Shop of Horrors as my favorite musical of all time. This is from 2001. John Cameron Mitchell, writer, director, star. Stephen Trask, music and lyrics. Hedwig and the Angry Inch. I very much recommend this Criterion release as well. It's definitely worth it to grab the Blu-ray if you can. Now, this has been a favorite movie of mine for a long time. I had a poster for this movie up in my dorm room, I'm pretty sure, or at least for at least 2 years of college, this movie poster was in my dorm room. I was turned on to it by a friend in high school where we rented it from the Hut Video on DVD, and I just became obsessed with it. It was definitely a first foray for me in many ways into queerness and glam. However, it did not beat Rocky Horror Picture Show to the punch for me. I had already been a big Rocky Horror fan. I love this movie for so many reasons. One, it's a knockout musical. It's a beautiful exploration of identity, self, love, politics. This movie has so much to say. And I think for me also, on a personal note, I feel like this movie helped me. This movie and Rocky Horror are the two things that helped me feel comfortable in, like, queer expression. Sometimes I feel weird talking about this stuff. I'll be really honest with you guys. Sometimes I feel like it's not my space to talk about this stuff because I am, by and large, attracted to women, at least physically. And it was Stephanie the other day who said, everything's on a spectrum. It doesn't, your identity doesn't need to be defined by this. You don't have to feel restricted just because you're a cisgender male who's primarily attracted to women sexually. And I will say that these movies have influenced me a lot in terms of, like, the way I like to perform music, the way I like to, honestly, some themes that are only now starting to come up in projects that I want to explore of gender bending, queerness. I love exploring this. I feel like singing the Hedwig soundtrack in my car, singing the Rocky Horror soundtrack in my car, like, honestly opened me up to not worrying about expressing myself in that way. And so I will just, in a nutshell, say that I think they helped me explore a more fluid gender expression, whether or not that's the way I dress or the way I perform music, or just the themes that I want to include in my art, or just the way I am in the world. I love it deeply. It's probably in my top 5 movies of all time. So, have a great rest of your stream, Glowcat. Thank you for swinging by, and everyone else, go check out Glowcat's stream after you're done hearing my ass talk. Yes, Little Shop. Hedwig is it's perfect. It is actually a movie I would describe as perfect. And just side note, that conversation pops up from time to time where people are like, what's a perfect movie? Usually people use that as an excuse to describe their favorite movie. I don't think my favorite movie is perfect. My favorite movie is Neverending Story. I can see the elements in it where maybe I would, like, if you could, like, adjust something. I love it to my core. I wouldn't call it perfect. For me, something that's perfect is there's not anything there that doesn't need to be there. There's nothing missing. Everything has purpose. Everything relates to the story that's being told. Everything gels. And you walk away from it feeling fulfilled. There are very few movies that hit this for me. I do think as a musical, Hedwig is perfect. The other ones, I would say Lion King, Jurassic Park, Silence of the Lambs. Movies I'm willing to call perfect. And I love that Holden kind of mixed CD with Origin of Love on it. That's rad. I wonder if that... I wonder how you found that. If it was through the same person that showed this movie to me. Life is a spectrum, baby. Gendered fashion is a made-up construct. Also, gender roles are... yeah, I love you, baby. This is, for those of you who don't know, DJ Stephanie Michelle is my co-host. Also, life partner and business partner. And I think, I'd say that we both do a pretty good job of empowering each other to be fluid as well. So, love you, Stephanie. Hedwig was incredible. The production design and wardrobe were also off the charts. Yes. Oh, I said I loved my girlfriend and lost us a viewer. My bad. Yes, that is something we don't talk about as much, and I want your voice for this stuff. Stuffy up in here. Because you have, obviously you have the eye for this. You have styled films. So, really interested what everyone's takeaways from this were. I think the way Movie Club generally talks, just because of the way this is set up, or works because of the way this is set up, is that I generally talk, Stephanie generally talks, about our thoughts. We kind of word vomit what we think. And then we're like, but what did everyone else think? I want to know. This movie's been one of my favorites for so long that I'm not actually sure what else I can add to the convo about it. The songs are incredible. It's such a wonderful, loving tribute to rock and roll as well, in an almost mythological way. Where y'all know me. I'm a hip hop guy. That's what I love more than anything is hip hop. So I was never that much of a rock fan, but I also am not trying to separate them. I guess I have been a big rock fan in my life too. Let me slow what I'm saying down. I try to be omnivorous with the things I consume, but I have primarily been biased towards hip hop, R&B, soul, funk, disco. Rock and roll, especially classic rock, is not something that I ever really took the time to educate myself on in the way that I did my homework on other genres. Hedwig's performance of glam rock, classic rock, and experimental art rock, to me is I love it more than I think I love the things it's referencing. I don't want to get myself into trouble there, but it's I like Hedwig because Hedwig made me like Bowie more. But Hedwig will always be this distilled version of everything I really love about it. The storytelling, the glam, the gender bending, the steel guitar echo effects. Anyway. So it's a rock and roll movie. See, I'm just trying to think of my other observations on it. Yeah, well, if you're in the chat, sound off on what you thought if you got a chance to watch this movie. Because, straight up, y'all, I'm just going to keep rambling. I find this movie incredibly moving. I think I kind of identify with the Tommy Gnosis character. I think that Hedwig is this mythological force for enlightenment. I love her. And I love John Cameron Mitchell. And I feel like at this point, I always wanted that tattoo. Is it matching as in it's the little, I'm gonna look like I'm doing, accidentally making that alt-right fucking hand symbols. No, I promise you it's not what I'm trying to do. The little yin-yang shapes, the little faces that fit together, do they each have one of those? Or do they each have the fully whole realized one? There was a time in my life where I almost got those matching Hedwig tattoos with my SO at the time. And I think that both of us decided we wouldn't because it meant we weren't whole on our own. The two sides of the face, yes. because I love the two sides of the face, but I struggle. Like, the ending of this movie always makes me feel like we're forever alone, and that has to be enough. Or maybe true love does exist, which is, I think, why ultimately, like, I wanted this tattoo for years, and I think the reason I didn't is because the only way I want this tattoo is if I can somehow magically have both versions of it, the split and the whole. If I could have a tattoo that animated itself, depending on what mood I was in, 100%. After my divorce from Luther, I'm trying to do Hedwig's voice. I scraped by with babysitting gigs and odd jobs, mostly the jobs we call blow. It's just a perfect performance. I can't do it. I can't do the voice. Yeah, the tire. Also, the number of things in here where it's so clear that it's a stage show that's been adapted, but all you need is that. I love that the music numbers are all set in the bilge waters restaurants. This very middle American restaurant, which acts as the backdrop to every rock performance. And I love that I love the little tableaus that are created for the storytelling moments, because really this movie is it's a musical autobiography. Really, this movie is so much Hedwig monologuing. This movie is almost one big monologue, as we're kind of just narrated through the story. I think that's why it watches so easily too, because if you're enraptured by the character of Hedwig, you're gonna be there for the whole movie. But I'm thinking of this scene with the jobs we call blow, the tire mountain, the scene where it's just Hedwig telling the story of Tommy Gnosis and her while lounging as queen of this mountain of discarded tires. Same with the Lilith Fair, the Menzies Fair joke that they do, playing the ninth stage at a outdoor music festival, and there's only one person in the crowd, and she also is holding an umbrella for the drizzle that is presumably happening. And that beautiful wide shot of the goth girl approaching the stage with the porta potties set up on the left of the stage in a wide, almost looking like tombstones. This movie, just every part of it is engaging you in some visual way, combined with a character that you can't take your eyes off of, combined with animation sequences, and combined with an incredible just like music theory, pluck the strings of serotonin soundtrack. The only thing this movie is missing is a music montage at the end to have the big moment. It doesn't need it though, because it's kind of not about that. I remember studying this movie as an anti-musical back in the day, in the sense that it deliberately breaks certain rules of... It works as a musical, but it also deliberately breaks certain rules. For instance, at the end, when Tommy is singing to Hedwig, he stops singing. The soundtrack continues with his voice, but he stops lip-syncing. And the artifice of the musical is dropped while they're both there naked with each other. It's really got everything a film kid could want, right? Let's circle back over here. Most of my favorite movies outside of the Kevin Smith and Tarantino films I discovered in my teenage years came from my college days and showed me how far the medium and narrative could be pushed. Hedwig was one of those movies. Same. Holden Wook, those new tattoos that fade after a year, all the rage. You could try one and see how it goes. I didn't know that was a thing. Maybe I will. I want to save up for the next real big tattoo that I want anyway, which is going to cost way too much money, and I just want it on my body already. I'll show you all once I get it. And Stephanie Michelle, coming through. I think this movie is ultimately about self-love and how it gives you the grace to put love back into the world and release anger. Also, the fest scene is one of my fave. That outfit and wig are amazing. Yes. That's a really great interpretation of the ending. And that it's okay to be missing a part of yourself. Actually, you've just talked me into the full circle on the tattoos, because it's okay if you're not whole. As long as you can love yourself, you will be whole. That is beautifully put. Agreed. Thank you, Stephanie. Put love back into the world and release anger. My favorite moment in this movie, is when the band is performing Angry Inch. The origin story, well, they're all origin story songs, but the origin of really Hedwig's biological gender, or whatever you want to call it, the origin of Hedwig's inch is what we'll call it. there's a moment where there's a monologue. Long story short, where Hedwig is breaking. There's a breakdown. It's the bridge, and Hedwig is just singing about how the surgery was botched, and they were left with a 1-inch mound of flesh. Quote, where their penis used to be, where their vagina never was, it was a 1-inch mound of flesh, with a scar running down it like a sideways grimace on an eyeless face, and this, like, caricature of like a small town hick, basically, gets up and gets in her face and calls her the F slur, and it's right before the hook, and she just jams the mic into her face and goes, and just screams, sings the hook as it drops, and the drums drop, and the song is the righteous anger spewing into his face, and the band members who aren't playing jump in and actually tackle him physically, but it's, in a way, the band members are the metaphor for the song. They are the ones performing the song. They leave performing, but the song on the soundtrack continues because we don't need to see them playing their instruments because we have transcended reality. And the song is punching this guy in the face. The art is punching this guy in the face and holding him down. It is such a moment of, like, such a liberating, like, and I have not experienced hatred for being a queer person in the world. So I can only relate it to the moments we all have of being bullied. But in that moment, it is such a liberating fuck you to the bully through the art and pure expression of yourself. Favorite moment. You just made me think with that. The release anger. That's mwah. Still feel bad for bailing on our Orin tattoos 15 years later. It's never too late. And also, don't feel bad. It's a tattoo. I don't think I was mad then, and I'm not mad now. Just but now I have to provide context, Holdenwook. Holdenwook and I were going to go get Orins from The Neverending Story because it's both of our favorite movie. We're both going to get the tattoo. We had them, I think, scheduled on different days, though. And Holdenwook decided he didn't want to do it. That's fine, dude. I still wanted to do it because I always wanted it. I'm still happy I have it. It's on my back. I'm not going to take my shirt off for it. But if you ever decide to get it, it will, the magic of the Orin will automatically make it a bro tattoo. I still consider it a bro tattoo, though, because it reminds me of you, because it's Neverending Story. So, that's my very caffeinated, don't feel bad. John Cameron Mitchell's musical performances are so, so good. Yeah. We've been watching Shrill. John Cameron Mitchell plays the boss, basically plays a version of himself, where it's like, I was super fucking hip and edgy. I made Hedwig 20 years ago. Plays a super edgy Gen X, boundary-pushing journalist who is starting to learn that they need to let the new generation in if they truly believe in the counterculture. They cannot become the status quo. And it's a great character. Anyway, there's a karaoke moment on the show, or there's a moment where they sing at their house. There's a moment where John Cameron Mitchell sings, and I got chills because just the way that he like jerks into the mic, the way the mic belongs next to his lips. Natural performer. Just John Cameron Mitchell with a microphone. And Hedwig would go to be on stage with both, oh my God, Neil Patrick Harris playing Hedwig, which sounds great, sounds fantastic. But also Michael C. Hall playing Hedwig was a brief run. I would kill to see the Michael C. Hall Hedwig on stage. God, Michael C. Hall is Dexter to many people. To me, he is. Oh my God, David Fisher from 6 Feet Under, and he would absolutely slay. He's incredible. He gets a few musical numbers on 6 Feet. Yeah, he's David Fisher. Ugh. I'm gonna start crying if we talk too much about David Fisher. It's my favorite. It's my boy. My boy. Okay. Well, feel free to jump in the chat if you have any other things you want to add about Hedwig. Ultimately, we don't need to talk it to death. I'm just happy that a few of us got the chance to watch it. I would watch this movie every day and never get bored of it. Huge recommendation. Speaking of which, we're moving into our movie club pick for next week and our staff picks for next week. So Stephanie, I know. Thank you for joining us in the chat. By the way, thanks for it's weirdly surreal but kind of fun knowing that you're on the other side of that wall, laying in bed, watching on your phone. But you owe us a staff pick. That's the one thing you must provide to Dazed. My staff pick is going to be Nightbreed, baby. Sorry if that was yours, Stephanie. If that was going to be your staff pick by any chance, I can pick a different one. But I think it's got to be Nightbreed for me. I watched it 1.5 times this week because, again, like I said, I watched it almost all the way through, and then we threw it on, started it again. So my staff pick is Nightbreed. Steph, we'll see what your staff pick is. And then in the realm of keeping this going, celebrating queer filmmakers and queer stories in June for Pride Month, I have a little post-it that has the movies we wrote down last week as potential movie club picks. Happy to add to this if we want to go down a queer horror route. I don't know if we've still got Great Job Nerds with us, but he is the one who sent me that queer horror list, and I might have some ideas for what he wants to watch. I also have a few tapes that I set out next to me that I thought might pique some interest. And, oh yeah, Great Job Nerds, congrats! Great Job Nerds is officially now a video store clerk at Beyond Video in Baltimore. Just wanna clap for that. I love that. I love that they have that program. So cool. Okay, and Booksmart is staff pick. Great movie. I love that. I mean, like, I sincerely love that for you, Vinny. Oh, okay. Okay, guys. So I brought out a little stack of stuff that I thought might pique some interest for watching queer stories this month. I'm gonna say it is still pretty male. So if we want to get into some women's stories as well, please pitch. I just grabbed what I saw on the shelf. Let's go ahead and say, starting off with Pasolini. Pasolini is Italian filmmaker. Did a lot of amazing stuff. Unfortunately, we've talked about Salo before. Often thought of as Salo, but Pasolini made many great films. I've had this tape for a while called Love Meetings, which is basically like, it says a cinema verite investigation of sex in Italy, which features a lot of different kinds of couples, including homosexual couples and heterosexual couples and friends and everything in between. Pasolini, this was him exploring sex. Pasolini was a gay, Marxist, communist, Christian, atheist, polemicist, poet, filmmaker, did a lot of incredible stuff. We already briefly mentioned him with Gospel According to St. Matthew. Just an incredible, very interesting voice. Although his movies, he was a very intellectual guy. His movies can be oftentimes deliberately esoteric. They're art films. So keep that in mind. We also got Pedro Almodovar, who is one of my favorite directors ever. When I first moved to Austin, I bought this box set because it was new at the time. Yep, 2007. And I had just moved to Austin. And I just bought this box set. And I was alone in Round Rock, which is like a suburb of Austin. I wasn't really in the town. I didn't know anybody. And I watched one of these a day after work there's 9 of them, for 9 days. And I will never forget it. It was an incredible experience. I feel like I really fell in love with Pedro Almodovar as a filmmaker. But also, like, his themes are so joyous and colorful and heavy at the same time. They're very Spanish. They're very Spanish movies. In the best sense. Melancholy but joyful. Honest about life and death. Colorful. Great shit. If we want to keep going with Clive Barker, Nightbreed, well, there's Candyman. I'm not sure if you would classify Candyman as a queer horror text. Clive Barker, however, it's one of his big ones. And also, we could watch Hellraiser if we want to continue into that. Hellraiser, often discussed as a queer horror text as well. Got Ginger Snaps, which is a fantastic werewolf movie. Now, this is this is like the horror Booksmart, in that it explores queer themes, but it also is predominantly just about growing up as a teenage girl. And as I mentioned earlier, Bride of Frankenstein. Bride of Frankenstein is an hour, 10 minutes. It's kind of a quintessential queer horror text. Also, same director, James Whale, The Old Dark House. This is often slept on. I've seen this before. It's super fun. It's also 70 minutes long. It's a quick watch. It's a very fun, campy horror comedy about an old haunted house. And then finally, Dracula's Daughter was another one I grabbed. No shortage of vampire movies being used to denote lesbian relationships. Lesbians and vampires, the movies love them. Okay, guys, pitching, but I'm a cheerleader, and Watermelon Women, but love those picks too. Also interested in The Celluloid Closet, which is a documentary from the 90s about the celluloid closet. Gods and Monsters, same time. It was a time in the 90s where people were kind of looking back and reappraising a lot of what had come in the century. And looking back and saying, oh, that filmmaker was gay. Oh, that movie is about that. That's The Celluloid Closet. I'm going to read the little post-it note now. Victor Victoria, Cabaret, Liquid Sky, Watermelon Woman, Bound, Wachowskis, Hedwig, we did, Born in Flames, Brokeback Mountain, Wedding Banquet, another Ang Lee, Daughters of Darkness, which is a like a dark sci-fi, like revenge sci-fi movie, Paris is Burning, which was Steph's staff pick last week. Also love But I'm a Cheerleader and Watermelon Woman. Knife Plus Heart, French Modern Giallo from 2018. Not horror, but recommend Nowhere in the Doom Generation from Akari. Yes. Hey, what up, Scratch Burno? Welcome. These are great suggestions. Thank you. I'm going to just copy and paste this into my little I Need to Watch tab that I try and keep open while we do this. Seriously. Knife Plus Heart was one that Great Job Nerds recommended last week. French Modern Giallo from a few years ago. Sounds very interesting. Second time I'm hearing about it. Nowhere in the Doom Generation. I think getting into some Greg Araki would be like a really cool move. Granted that we haven't really explored his works at all this month either. So thank you for those recommendations. Okay. Y'all, let's narrow this down step by step. What sort of genre are we feeling? Are we feeling... he's a filmmaker, by the way, Scratch Burno, that I'm pretty underseen on and have always kind of meant to dive into. Doom Generation was like... I don't think it was never not in someone else's staff picks when I worked at a video store. It's just that kind of like 90s alt movie that people responded to, like a generation really responded to, that I need to watch. So Doom Generation's up there for me. But we've got stuff like But I'm a Cheerleader, Watermelon Woman. We could also go queer horror. We could also go Greg Araki. What are we feeling, y'all? Should I make a poll? This is, I'm just like pretty open to all suggestions here. Because I'm just Googling again just to see if there's any little listicles that'll give me an idea. But I'm a Cheerleader is pretty fantastic. Watermelon Woman also takes place in a video store we haven't talked about yet. The Birdcage, fun, Mike Nichols. Dog Day Afternoon, I'm going to throw that one out there. Dog Day Afternoon, not often thought of as a queer movie, but it is. Yeah. Okay, I think we've got some really good ideas out here. Gods and Monsters, Cabaret. All About My Mother, which is a fantastic Almodovar flick. Comedy or horror, would do any. Okay, well then I'll start a poll, y'all. Okay, so for the poll, I'll go ahead and say... for horror, we'll say that it could be... If we decide on a horror, we'll have to narrow it down from there, so... Well, you know what? I'll just add a few that we've been talking about. Cool. Allow additional votes. Okay. But I'm a cheerleader? Dang, y'all, this is... Multiple maniacs. Interesting. Ooh, that's a fun idea. Getting into some John Waters. Oh my god, I want to watch Thundercrack so bad, you guys. I've been wanting to order it. I don't know if you can stream it anywhere, but Thundercrack is this 1975, like, horror comedy porno. I don't know where you can stream it. It's been on my wish list on Amazon for like 10 years. I never have bought it because it's never been not $30. Yeah. Very. Can't really find it. Okay, multiple maniacs. Okay, I'm going to do... This is what we're going to do. We're going to do a poll, and it's just going to be genres. So we're going to land on something first, and then we're going to narrow it down. Okay. So, horror, for instance, Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Seed of Chucky. Those are, let's say, modern horror. Let's say classic horror. That'd be more like your Bride of Frankenstein. Modern horror will be more like Knife Plus Heart or Chucky. Let's say comedy. That's going to be like But I'm a Cheerleader or Booksmart, for example. And then let's say John Waters movie. And then let's say an Almodovar movie. Cool. Let's start this poll. And then once we land on the vibe, we will do a second poll, and we'll see if we want to get what we want to get into. Maybe I shouldn't have included John Waters and Almodovar on here because they could fall under genre. So feel free to throw your vote away on one of those, but no, whatever. Vote for whatever. We'll figure it out together, guys. I'm going to refresh my water whilst we vote. I am down for Vampiros Lesbos. I'm down for Daughters of Darkness, which was my staff pick last week. I'm down with Dracula's Daughter. I think all of us are feeling pretty open. So I guess we'll just have to jump in. And, you know, I often try to think, like, I want to hit all the, call them tent poles. Like, when we did Japanese cinema, we tried to do, like, 70s new wave, 50s classic, aughts experimental, 90s cyberpunk. We tried to jump around and kind of have the big movements. Since we're just addressing, we're not addressing, like, a country's history, we're kind of, like, I'm trying to think about what the history of queer cinema is, and we've hit like postmodern musical, right? So what are the things we want to hit? I would love to jump into like some seminal work this month that I haven't seen before, like what am I trying to say? Maybe a seminal work like Paris is Burning. I have seen that, but it's a good example. Or a classic horror, a coded work like Val Lewton's Cat People or Bride of Frankenstein. You know, just trying to think what are the big things we should hit if we're trying to be representative of an entire history of film. Got 2 votes for Almodovar so far. No, I love Almodovar. All right, we got a few minutes left on the chat here. And if you need to tune out and want to catch us later, you know you can always catch up on what the movie club pick is on our Instagram. It's at YouAreInA Video Store. You can also do it on Twitter at YouAreInA Video. Follow us on both of those. We'll make sure we share what the movie club picks are, as well as sharing fun thoughts that we have randomly as social media works. Almodovar is kind of sweeping this competition. We need at least 4 votes to dethrone Pedro up in here. So, y'all, I love me some Almodovar. BRB? Oh my god, have you guys... Oh, I think I actually just figured out what I want to pitch here. Because it looks like Almodovar is just winning here. Yeah, it's... Let's do it. Let's do Pedro Almodovar. Really one of the most important filmmakers ever. Landmark voice for gay cinema. Landmark voice for queer cinema. A landmark voice for Spanish cinema. Almodovar is a hero. I love him. Let's get into it. Okay. Cannot talk anymore, guys. I miss having a co-host. I know I talk a lot even when Steph's here, but it's more so without Steph here. All right, y'all. I love these suggestions. I'm going to make sure I write them down on my Post-it so that we don't forget them next week, because we will continue. Because John Waters is absolutely something we should get into. Multiple Maniacs is a great idea. Also, I still have the polyester Blu-ray with the scratch and sniff card that you got me for Christmas, Vineet, and I want to dive into that. Greg Araki is also one we need to write down. Thank you. Scratch Burno, it's awesome having you here. Welcome. And Knife and Heart, we're going to keep coming back to. Okay, cool. Beans. So, I think, here's my pitches for Almodovar. Either we watch a classic, like something that's regarded as one of his best, like All About My Mother. All About My Mother is a fantastic movie. So here can't shake pink flamingos. So Stephanie, the reason I want to watch this movie Thundercrack, which is it's like a gay horror comedy porno movie from 1975. Again, I just said that a few minutes ago. One of the reviews I read of it was that the person saw it in a double feature with Pink Flamingos second, and that if you wanted a movie that would make you watch Pink Flamingos and think it was no big deal, you should watch Thundercrack, which is why I want to watch Thundercrack. Okay, so for Almodovar, I'm going to pitch 3 ideas here. He had a movie recently called Pain and Glory, which is fantastic, that I recommend. I don't really want to do it for movie club pick. The 3 I'm going to pitch. 1 is All About My Mother. Maybe his most famous movie other than Talk to Her, which is also a great option. Fantastic drama. Women on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown is a madcap comedy from the 80s with a great ensemble cast of women, just comedic acting, relationship drama, guns. It's fun as hell. And The Skin I Live In. The Skin I Live In is Almodovar's gender-bending horror movie that would fit really well with the Frankenstein theme. That is, to say too much about would be to spoil. Suffice to say, it is a mad scientist horror movie about gender and body and dysmorphia, and it's brilliant. So, those are the 3. We could do our queer horror and be Almodovar. That's The Skin I Live In. We could do our queer comedy and have it be Almodovar. That's Women on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown. Or we could do our grounded drama that's going to move you and make you cry, and that's going to be All About My Mother. So, are they all equally accessible? Let's see. Skin I Live In streaming. Available on HBO Max. Okay, there's that one. All About My Mother streaming. That one you have to pay for on Prime for $3. Okay? And Talk to Her streaming, which is same deal. Talk to Her is not on Netflix, although the Google wants to lie to me and pretend it is. Okay, it is also a rental on Prime. Costs money to rent. Okay, and finally, what's the other one we want to look up? Women on the Verge. Nervous Breakdown, streaming. Again, a rental on Prime. Okay, so it looks like Skin I Live In is free on Max, on HBO Max, and the others are $3 rentals. So let's do one. We're getting to the end of our stream. I think a lot of people have had to go to bed, so there's only a handful of us left here. But I don't blame you. This is one of our... I don't blame you for tuning out, because this is definitely one of our most wishy-washy deciding on what to watch segments. Okay. All right, y'all. We've got a new poll up. We're deciding on the Almodovar movie to watch. All About My Mother, a drama. Women on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown, which is a 80s madcap comedy. Or The Skin I Live In, which is a, I don't know how else to describe it, but a existential gender horror movie, not comedy. Skin I Live In is free on Max. The other two are going to cost you $3 to rent. They might be on Tubi, though. I don't know. And Talk to Her is honestly such a masterpiece. I'm wondering... I truly wish that there was a way to watch it. Oh, Talk to Her is actually on streaming too. Hey, you got me. I never noticed that. I never noticed when people throw things. Looks like The Skin I Live In. It's coming through. It's like I want to change out Talk to Her with All About My Mother. But that just goes to show that that's really just because I love this director so much. I would watch any of them, and really all of his work is on Amazon. It looks like for a $3 rental. So I'm just going to go ahead and say I really recommend everything by Almodovar. I especially recommend the big ones are Talk to Her and All About My Mother and Women on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown. If you want a really fun sex comedy, Tie Me Up, Tie Me Down. That is about it's about a guy who kidnaps a soap opera star and ties her up. It's not as scary as it sounds. Flower of My Secret is a really interesting movie because it's a movie about a woman in her 60s finding love, which you don't often see. And Matador. Anyway, I recommend every single one of this guy's movies. Okay, let's check back. Skin I Live In got 1 vote. We're definitely waning down. We got 4 viewers. If you're one of them, hey, thanks for being here. That's our show, y'all. We are going to say the staff pick is The Skin I Live In. I cannot wait to see what the discussion is like on this one because it is kind of a crazy-ass movie. My staff pick is going to be Nightbreed, or am I going to take that back? No, it's going to be Nightbreed. Nightbreed. And Steph's staff pick is Booksmart. And that is it. That is not a stylized way that you're supposed to write the title of that movie. That is just me typoing. Thanks for watching tonight, guys. It's been really fun, even though tonight's stream was just me. Y'all send some healing energy to baby girl Steph so she feels better. And I'm really excited to continue this journey through the month. Thanks for bearing with me as I talked us through these 2.5 hours together. Love y'all. Have a wonderful night. Watch more movies. Get home safe. Be kind. Rewind. Be good to each other out there. Black Lives Matter. And we will see you next week.
You are in a video store. Say you are in a video store. You are in a video store. Say you are in a video store. You are in a video store. Say you are in a video store. You are in a video store. Say you are in a video. From the rich to Mamoulian, Cuba to Leone, Kobushi and Suzuki. These movies take you to New Orleans. We recommend it. Yeah. Never pretentious. Yeah. It's never ending. Yeah. Just where our head is. Yeah. It's one Korean Slaughterhouse 5. Those Hollywood nights are Hong Kong on fire. I could watch it all night. Let's stop and rewind. Watch it again. You strapped in, ain't no stopping the ride. That's Ginger Rogers the time. Swing down to Broadway and lights. Mike, Tarkovsky, Almodovar, Von Sternberg, Dietrich, Garbo, Garfield, Heathcliff, Transformers over on the 80s TV show. You need a hand, we can reach it. Moving silence like Bernal Melly is Mishu. Spending afternoons with Maya, then watch Freddy Got Fingered. It's all love for that silver screen, baby, what that TV do. And we here every week too, so don't you touch that dial, bruh. We ain't skipping the previews. You are in a video store. Say you are in a video store. You are in a video store. Say you are in a video store. You are in a video store. Say you are in a video store. You are in a video store. Say you are in a video. You are in a video store. Say you are in a video store. You are in a video store. Say you are in a video store. You are in a video store. Say you are in a video store. You are in a video store. Say you are in a video. You are in a video. You are in a rental shop. Yeah, welcome to the rental shop. Yeah, welcome to the rental shop. Welcome to the rental shop. Yeah, welcome to the rental shop. Yeah, welcome to the rental shop. Watch him.